Good evening and welcome to the Ysleta Independent School District's meeting of the Board of Trustees. The meeting of the Board of Trustees is a meeting of the board that the public is allowed to attend. As provided, YISD ISD Policy BED, we invite members of the public to make comments during the citizens' input portion at the start of the meeting according to the instructions provided with the electronic posting notice of our meeting. Legally, the board may listen but may not enter into discussion on any matters in citizens' input. We remind everyone that this is a board meeting often attended by students and ask that we conduct ourselves in a manner that best represents the values and traditions of the Ysleta Independent School District. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order at 6:04 p.m. We have a quorum with Mr. Shane Haggerty, Mr. Chris Hernandez, Mr. Charlie Bustillos, Mr. Mike Dwyer, Ms. Connie Woodruff, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. Ms. Catherine Lucero is unable to join us and is considered excused. Trustee Haggerty, please introduce our junior ROTC.
Thank you, sir. It has become a tradition to honor our nation at each of our board meetings by presenting the colors, reciting the pledges of allegiance, and then posting the colors. The colors tonight are presented by the Junior ROTC Color Guard from the often imitated, never replicated, the mighty Parkland High School. The Color Guard commander is Cadet Major Paulette Benacourt. The other Color Guard members are Cadet First Lieutenant Madai Castillo, Second Lieutenant Ethan Castillo, Private Mayrin Garcia, and the pledge leader from the Parkland Middle School, 7th grade student Arabel Hernandez. Will you please stand for the presentation of colors, the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, the Texas Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence. And please remain standing until all the cadets have departed. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, please join me in the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Before we proceed, I would like to take a moment to recognize one of our beloved coaches, Mr. Ricardo Dominguez, who was a coach at Tierra del Sol. He was there he was here at Ysleta for almost 24 years. All our children loved him there, and he will be missed. He passed away yesterday suddenly, and I just want to say that our thoughts and prayers are with his family and our community. It is always hard that we lose one of our members of our community, and I just want to take this moment to say that we will miss him. Dr. De La Torre, do we have recognitions and introductions this evening?
Yes, good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, esteemed guests. We do. I invite our Chief Human Capital Management Officer, Ms. Bobby Russell Garcia, to lead in our recognitions and introductions this evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. We have 9 recognitions for you this evening. At this time, we ask all trustees to please come to the front of the dais for the presentation. Audience members, please remain seated until the recognitions are complete. Thank you. Tonight, we begin by honoring 23 Ysleta Independent School District students who performed outstanding community service to our young special education students in the Parkland learning community. Together with teacher Alejandro de la Peña, these students from Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School and Parkland High School volunteered dozens of hours before school in December to assemble and prepare gifts for about 150 children in self-contained special education units at Parkland Pre-K Center, as well as North Star, Dolphin Terrace, Parkland, and Desert Air Elementary Schools. Then, prior to the holiday break, the students visited the campuses, dressed in festive clothing, and gave away more than 1,400 fidget toys and 150 Christmas-themed books. The books were provided by a grant Mr. De La Peña received last year from firstbook.org. By working together to help brighten the holiday season of our youngest learners, this group demonstrated outstanding servant leadership, generosity, and a commitment to excellence. And we honor them tonight with a special Superintendent Service Excellence Award. Student Service Excellence Award, my apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome tonight's award winners from Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School, beginning with Aiden Batchelor. Lucius Becker. Malachi Becker. Evan Bustamante. Anaciel de la Peña. Camila Galaviz. Sergio Galaviz. Ebony Garcia. Gabriel Gutierrez. Alyssa Jackson. Jimena Larios. Brianna Martinez. Brianna Neve Martinez. Sofia Martinez. Jolene Matier. Cassandra Pacheco. Vianney Ramirez. Yesenia Silva. Alyssa Small. Jaren Venegas. And Kaylee White. Bella Castañon. Also from Parkland High School, please help me welcome Ariel de la Peña and Caitlin Gonzalez. They are accompanied by teacher Alejandro de la Peña, Parkland Pre-Engineering Middle School Principal Jesus Ortiz, and Parkland High School Principal Javier Salgado. Let's hear it once again for our Superintendent Service, Student Service Excellence Award winners. Our next recognition honors an exceptional team of students from the Young Women's Leadership Academy who won first place at this year's Region 2 Academic Decathlon. The win qualified them for the Texas Academic Decathlon Tournament, where they earned several individual medals and placed 7th overall at state. As part of the competition, these students not only mastered college-level academic material, but practiced vital real-world skills like public speaking, all while balancing teamwork, leadership, and time management. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate our academic decathlon superstars from the Young Women's Leadership Academy. Our first winner is a varsity bronze medalist in interview, Amaya Espino. Also winning an honors bronze medal in essay is Jenna Mendez. Let's also give a big round of applause to fellow teammate Ariana Delgado. The team is accompanied by Principal Melinda Villalobos. And also, I believe Ms. Villalobos recently celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday. Let's hear it for the Transformers. Our next recognition is in honor of 6 Ysleta Independent School District students who won first place at the Sun Country Regional Science Fair, qualifying them to compete this weekend at the Texas State Science and Engineering Fair at Texas A&M University. They are among hundreds of students in grades 6 through 12 who will compete at the State Science Fair in 20-plus categories that focus on engineering, biological sciences, and physical sciences. We congratulate these students on their accomplishment and wish them the best of luck at state. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome this year's Sun Country Science Fair winners. First, from the Eastwood Learning Community, we have Eastwood Knowles International School student, Jasna Dinish. Accompanied by teacher Arlene Lucero and Principal Rob Robledo. And Eastwood Middle School student Kylie Vega, accompanied by teacher Esmeralda Lara and Principal Steven Zubiate. Let's hear it for the Dragons and Raiders. Our next science fair winner is from Alicia R. Chacon International School. Please welcome Azul Loredo. She is accompanied by her teacher Yvette Valdez and Principal Candace Power. Let's hear it for the Explorers. And from Valle Verde Early College High School, please welcome science fair winners, Fernanda Balcorta, Bianca Gonzalez, and Victoria Mascoro. They are accompanied by teachers Sarah Welsh and Principal Claudia Canava Flores. Let's hear it again for the Spartans. Our next recognition honors 4 Ysleta Independent School District students who captured first and second places at the Region UIL-CX debate, also known as cross-examination debate or policy debate. The contest consists of 2-person debates that argue propositions of policy which help students develop critical thinking, listening, argument construction, research, note-taking, and advocacy skills. Best of luck to our regional debate winners as they advance to the next level and compete at this month's state meet at the University of Texas at Austin. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our state qualifiers and second place winners for District 25A UIL CX debate from Hanks High School, Bron Burford. And Azrin Wiles. They are accompanied by teacher Vanessa Gardea and principal Ruben Cadena. Also qualifying for state after winning first place at the District 16A debate contest are Eastwood High School students Sebastian Perez Navarro, and Davion Dunn. They are accompanied by Al Arvizo and Principal Bonita Torres. Congratulations to the troopers and the knights. Our fifth recognition tonight honors two students whose artwork was chosen to represent Ysleta Independent School District at the Youth Art Month exhibition on display this month at Bullock's Texas State History Museum in Austin. Every year, the Texas Art Education Association showcases exceptional works of art during March Youth Art Month for the most promising K-12 students across the state. Congratulations to these outstanding students whose artwork may also be viewed on the museum's website through the end of this month. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our talented student artists from the Del Valle Learning Community, beginning with Alicia R. Chacon International School student, Perla Lujan. She is accompanied by teacher Melissa Barba and principal Candace Power. And from Del Valle High School, please welcome Michelle Gomez. She is accompanied by teacher Raul Monares and principal Ivan Cedillo. Let's hear it again for outstanding student artists. Our next recognition honors another group of outstanding artists who won gold or silver key awards at the New Mexico Scholastic Art Awards competition, which recognizes students from the city of El Paso and the state of New Mexico. A panel of professional artists adjudicated the impressive student artwork, which is on display at the African American Performing Arts Center in Albuquerque through the end of March. What an abundance of artistic talent we have at our schools. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our 2024 Gold Key winners from the Bel Air Learning Community. First, we have Bel Air High School students, Natalia Arzaga, Graciela Garcia, Kitsia Garcia, Bethany Olguin. Sofia Saldivar. Charlize Santini. And Dana Veloz. They are accompanied by teachers Cesar Aguayo, Alejandra Ortega, Ayel Angel, and Principal Jake Valtierra. And from Valle Verde Early College High School, please welcome Stephanie Kyo. She is accompanied by Principal Claudia Canava Flores. Let's hear it for the Highlanders and the Spartans. Next, from Eastwood High School, please welcome Golden Key winner, Renata Hernandez. Ryan Madrid. Emily Weber. Leslie Williams. And earning both a gold key and silver key is student Nainyan Tanchen. They are accompanied by teachers Tanya Fortenberry and Angelia Kien, and Principal Bonita Torres. Congratulations to the troopers. Now please welcome our Hanks High School Gold Key winner, Destiny Chavez. She is accompanied by Principal Ruben Cadena. Let's hear it for the Knights. And from Ysleta High School, please welcome our gold and silver key winner, Camila Galindo. She is accompanied by teacher Diana Franco and Principal Amelia Garcia. Congratulations to the Indians. Our seventh recognition tonight honors 3 students who took top honors at the Region 19 UIL's Congress Contest, a mock legislative assembly competition where students are asked to draft, research, and vote on legislation. Their success at regionals qualified them to compete at the state meet in Austin in January, where 2 students made it to the final round, a feat that has not been accomplished in our district for at least 15 years. Congratulations to these hardworking students on proudly representing the district champions at the state capitol. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our outstanding UIL Congress regional winners, beginning with Hanks High School student Carolina Segoviano. She is accompanied by Coach Vanessa Gardea and Principal Ruben Cadena. Del Valle High School student Carlos Castro. He is accompanied by Principal Ivan Cedillo. And Eastwood High School student Sebastián Pérez Navarro. He is accompanied by Coach Al Arvizu and Principal Bonita Torres. Let's hear it one more time for these outstanding students. Our next recognition honors 4 talented high school ensembles that advanced to the 2024 UIL State Mariachi Festival after earning Division I ratings at the area contest in January. These groups gave impressive performances at February state championships, which earned our mariachi groups from Del Valle, Eastwood, and Riverside High Schools a Division II rating of excellent, while our Hanks High School Ensemble captured the festival's best rating, a Division I superior rating, for the 3rd year in a row. Congratulations to our amazing student musicians. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our district exceptional mariachi ensembles. Beginning with Hanks High School Mariachi Los Trabadores, representing the musicians are President, Harmonious Section Leader, Daphne Reyes. President and Violin Section Leader, Sydney Bejarano. Vice President and Concert Master, Francisco Magaña. Treasurer, Irene Valenzuela. Regalia Leader, Josabeth Hernandez. Historian, Alyssa Duron. And librarian, Abigail Chavira. They are accompanied by their directors, Dr. Osvaldo Altamirano, Juan Contreras, and Carla Urias Cudier, and Principal Ruben Cadena. Let's hear it again for the Knights. Next, from Del Valle High School, please welcome Mariachi de los Conquistadores. Representing the ensemble are President Natalia Yane Enriquez, Vice President Vanessa Enriquez Avalos, Secretary Isaac Martinez, Treasurer Ramses Soto, Historian Chantel Escorza, Librarian Araline Gonzalez, Quartermaster Mariana Barbosa, and Quartermaster Yerik Estrada. They are accompanied by their directors, Valentin Gonzalez and Keith Morales, along with Principal Ivan Cedillo. Congratulations to the Conquistadores. Next, from Eastwood High School, we have Mariachi Reina. Representing the student musicians are President Joan Manquero, Vice President Matthew Gonzalez, Communications Director Sunny Carvajal, Guitarón Section Leader Felix Montalvo, and Harmonica Section Leader Daniel Loya. They are accompanied by their assistant directors Maritza Loya and Javier Loya Jr., Director Amy Jaques, and Principal Bonita Torres. Let's hear it again for the troopers. Our final group is from Riverside High School. Please welcome Mariachi Estrella de Riverside. Representing the ensemble are Vocal Ambassador Stephanie Cruz, Guitarón Ambassador Anthony Diaz, Armania Ambassador Andres Orona, Violin Ambassador Luis Pereda, and Trumpet Ambassador, Emily Valdez. They are accompanied by their assistant directors, Angel Hernandez and Jason LaTurner. Director Ramon Acosta and Principal Victor Lara. Congratulations to the Rangers. Our final recognition tonight honors two phenomenal wrestlers from the Bel Air and Eastwood High School who captured either gold or silver medals at the UIL State Wrestling Championships that took place in February. In his first year of high school competition, Eastwood High School freshman Caden Rios made it all the way to the state championship match and won a silver medal in the Class 6A Boys 132-pound division. At Bel Air High School, sophomore Sydney Davis, who is also a national caliber track athlete in the heptathlon, claimed the gold medal and state championship title in the Class 5A Girls 152-pound division. She finished the season undefeated at 48-0. And set a new UIL 5A single-season winning percentage record for the girls wrestling. What an amazing way to end the season for these extraordinary athletes. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate our two extraordinary state wrestling medalists, beginning with Eastwood High School silver medalist, Caden Rios. He is accompanied by Coach Devin Vasquez and Principal Bonita Torres. And from Bel Air High School, gold medalist and state wrestling champion, Sydney Davis. She is accompanied by Coach Mark Loria and Principal Jake Valtierra. Let's hear it one more time for our state wrestling champions. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We will proceed with our board meeting at this time. Ms. Monica Mathewson, do we have any input this evening?
Yes, President Ochoa, we do. We have Jose Ruiz, Elvia Montelongo Williams in regards to a scholarship MOU.
First of all, thank you for having us here. My name's Jose Ruiz. I'm a proud teacher at Ysleta High School and YISD graduate. And this is Ms. Williams. What I would like to present is it's a MOU grant from New Mexico Highlands University, which I am an alumni, I'm a former student athlete. This scholarship format will facilitate our student athletes, especially in the Lower Valley, cover their financial needs. The way this came about is my daughter's currently a student athlete at my alma mater there. And when I was up there, they were facilitating these scholarships to other districts and bigger cities. And being there, I asked if we could facilitate it to El Paso. And they did do that. At the other school district, which I was working at, it's been in process for 2 years, and over 30 student athletes and students have benefited from this and are attending school, furthering their education, athletic careers without a financial burden. So when I upgraded and I came to YISD, I asked if we could bring it over here, and absolutely they did. And what they did is actually customized it for us, and if we were to look at it and study it and put it in place, it would benefit many of our kids. Is anybody benefiting off of this? The only person benefiting is our kids in the Lower Valley. Me being a product of the Lower Valley, it helped me facilitate, not through this grant, but through athletic and academics. And with our kids now, this is an opportunity where they could financially afford the school and not pay for play, but actually get an opportunity to further their academics and their athletic careers, and would bring kudos to our district as helping our kids advance and further their educational needs and careers in Ysleta Independent School District. Now, I would like to present Ms. Williams, whose daughter and other students would benefit from this. And if she could tell you a little bit more how this would benefit her student athlete.
Good evening, Elvia Montelongo Williams. So yes, my daughter Kennedy has been playing softball since she was 7 years old, and I think softball has helped her also with her studies, because it's, I know we would push her to keep her grades up, to, just don't give up. And so softball was the sport that kept her. I want to play, so I have to keep the grades. So they went hand in hand, and now she's a senior at Ysleta High School. And she was offered a partial scholarship from New Mexico Highlands. Being a single parent, with this scholarship, if it's approved, I mean, that would help tremendously, to help pay for the remainder of her studies. Something that she has worked so hard. It takes hours and hours of practice to succeed in her sport, and now it's offered to her, and just to help her succeed in her studies and her future. There's other students at Ysleta High School, student athletes, that are waiting for this scholarship to be approved, so they can benefit from it, not only my daughter. So I'm hoping and I'm asking for you guys to facilitate the approval of the MOU scholarship to benefit my daughter and also to benefit future student athletes. So we've been going through, it's been a process. We've been knocking on doors, and to this day, we haven't been able to get that approval. So we are here today asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Just very briefly, first of all, we all agree with this. We support this. This is good for kids. We're about kids. What I'm going to ask is that our in-house counsel, Ms. Priscilla Mata, she's our attorney, she will review the language. She'll make phone calls to New Mexico Highlands University. Once we get a draft that we can bring to the board that codifies the arrangement, the relationship, then it would be made available to all students in the Ysleta Independent School District. So those are really the steps. The only reason the board can't act on it right now is because it isn't on the agenda. But we can get it agendized for April if Ms. Mata can work out all of the details with the university and put together a draft for their consideration.
Yes, sir, that would be great, and they're willing to come down and give a presentation. And any grants that would be given that been offered earlier to our students will be grandfathered to benefit our YISD students.
It
Thank
sounds
you.
great.
Principal Ochoa, I know we're not allowed to enter a discussion with you until it is on the agenda, but this looks like you've done a lot of legwork already, and I just wanted to thank you for taking that time and effort to make sure that our kids are the ones that get to benefit,
Yes, sir.
or hopefully get to benefit. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Mathewson, do we have anybody?
No, sir, we're done.
Okay.
And I'm going to give her a copy of this if she doesn't have it.
Okay, thank you. Dr. De La Torre, do we have any presentations this evening?
President Ochoa, members of the board, guests, we do. We have 3 presentations for you this evening. I'm going to have our very own Melinda Villalobos come up and introduce our guests this evening, who will discuss the UTEP aerospace collaboration.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. Please help me welcome Executive Director of the UTEP Aerospace Program, Ms. Susie Bird, and UTEP Program Manager, Ms. Raquel Haggerty.
Here I am. Well, thank you so much for letting us have some of your time this evening. I want to first start by thanking you and honoring you for your service to our community and to the students. I know from my own experience the time and an attention it takes to do this job well. And to really resource student opportunities and success. So I want to just thank you for that. And I was glad to be able to celebrate with Dr. De La Torre his 10 years here at the. Thank you also for everything you've done for our students and for our community. So I'm going to just start, I'm going to kick it off, and then I'm going to hand it over to the resident expert, Rachel Haggerty. Let me make sure I know what I'm doing here. Can I just click it? Okay. So I'm going to start off with a review of the Aerospace Center. So the Aerospace Center is actually an administrative unit within the Office of Research and Innovation at the University of Texas at El Paso. We're a research center. We work very closely with the Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering Department, but we're actually a research center. And we have some core areas that we focus on. We are focused on developing the innovation, the talent, and the suppliers for aerospace, defense, and energy sectors. And we use our research to really create economic mobility for the students that work in our labs. I just met a student that comes from the early college Valle Verde campus that I would like to hire. She seemed really good. And then also using that to advance the economy of their region. So I want to just talk about our research. We have 3 research divisions. We do research in space that supports NASA's Artemis program. In Moon to Mars, we take in situ resource utilization, mining regolith from the moon to turn into energy and resources, water to support human habitation on the moon. Manufacturing in space, small spacecraft technologies, electrical and chemical propulsion, and robotic landers. Our Aeronautics and Defense Division, a lot of work supporting national defense, including in hypersonics, missile system innovation, and drones. And then our energy and sustainability engineering division, really looking at the transition into a more climate-proof future. And we do a lot of this through kind of running through across all of our work is digital engineering. The way that you design and build and manufacture systems is changing today, and there's more and more emphasis on doing it quicker, faster, better, and using processes like digital engineering. It's something that there's a lot of aspiration around this new practice, but there's not a lot of work. We really are one of the leading centers really maturing this practice and this approach, the methods and processes. And students that work for us have opportunities that they don't have in any other universities simply because of this digital engineering approach that we're running. And then my division that I mostly focus on is our Economic Development Workforce Division, again, where we're focused on using what we do at the center and our sister center, the WM Center for 3D Innovation, to rebuild our economy into a knowledge-based economy. To rebuild the skills of our existing workforce to support that growth in that sector, and to work with our small and medium manufacturers in the region to support the aerospace and defense markets. And really where I want you to know about us because of your work here at the school district is what we do for the students that work in our labs. We use our research as an engine for economic mobility for the students that work for us. We've been doing this for 20 years now and really have provided opportunities that students at even the very finest, MIT, Purdue don't have. We hire interns even as undergraduates, sophomores, juniors. I'm going to hire that student that I just met, even coming into UTEP. And the skills that they learn integrated with their classroom learning really makes them very competitive in the workforce. We hear from industry all the time, we get these great, smart kids, but they've been sitting in classrooms for 4 years. They don't know how to actually do anything. They never say that about our kids, never. And so I just want to let you know about our community. This is the profile of the students that we serve. And then what Rachel does all day long, in your comments earlier, Dr. De La Torre, about your 10-year anniversary, you talked about the incredible work that you have done to kind of bring up the talent in the region to support students. So I can attest to that. I've had my eye on Rachel for a long time. She is an extraordinary talent from YISD. And she's really helping take what she's learned working with you guys and helping us expand that impact beyond. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much for having us here today. I really appreciate it. And what I want to tell you guys about the UTEP Aerospace Center is that what it does is it merges theory with application. So it takes what you guys are teaching them in the classroom, and then when they come over to the UTEP Aerospace Center, they apply everything that they're learning in the classroom, and the opportunities that they have it's unbelievable to me. They have opportunities to get paid to do the research while they're in the classroom, and the reason that we do that, Dr. Shaduri he heads our department, and the reason that we pay the students is so they can just focus on the work. Because one of the things that he noticed 20 years ago when he first started teaching here is that these students had jobs outside of school, and it was interfering, and it was not allowing them to graduate. And so one of the things that's really important to him is that our students get paid while they're doing the research so that they don't have to worry about working outside of school. So that's one of the things that I really like about the UTEP Aerospace Center. We started working with Ysleta last year. We've worked with 385 students to date. And so what we primarily do is we work through a NASA-funded grant, and we come into the schools and we train the teachers. And there are 3 different projects, hands-on, everything's hands-on. There's 3 projects that we do, and then a capstone activity that's done that NASA provides. They provide all the materials, they provide stipends for the teachers. And so I train the teachers, and then the teachers go back into the classroom and they do this with the students. And the curriculum, being an ex-teacher, I know all of the struggles that the teachers have, and so we make sure that the curriculum is adaptive to the teacher. If they want to do it during the school day as an enrichment project, if they want to do it during that week that they have off, they can use it as an enrichment camp. If they want to do it in the summer, we adapt to whatever it is that the teacher needs. And so I'm really happy to say that we are going to be in all of the high schools. So we'll be doing this with all of your high schools, with the teachers, and it's something that we're going to make available to all the students. The grant is a West Texas grant, so we are in almost every school district here in El Paso. And as far as Presidio, we go from here all the way to Presidio. One of the things that we're going to be doing is on April 8th, we're going to host a Sun City solar eclipse. So we're inviting 336 of the students from the Young Women's Leadership Academy, and we'll be hosting them over at UTEP, and we're going to host this event. And then this summer, we're going to have a digital engineering camp. And so everybody's heard of AI, and they've heard of all kinds of stuff. And so what we're going to do is we're creating a special curriculum so that we can start teaching the students about virtual reality and about the next level of engineering. And so the engineering of yesterday looks a little different than the engineering of today. And so we just want to make sure that the students are kept up to date, because in a lot of the bigger cities, this is stuff that they're already doing, and so we want to make sure that our students aren't left behind and that they're getting the same opportunities that the other students are getting. So we have 3 different pathways. Our first pathway is to become an aerospace engineer, and so in this pathway, this is something that we would like to introduce over at the Young Women's Leadership Academy. It would start in 6th grade, and it would involve the engineering design process. It would be all hands-on activities. And then in 9th through 12th, they would focus on aerospace engineering. And we would be bringing people from the industry in to mentor the students. And so that way they would get a little bit more of perspective of what it's like to be an aerospace engineer working out in the field. We work with companies like Blue Origin, that's 150 miles away, Lockheed Martin. And then our second pathway is to become an aerospace technician. So now we know that not all students are interested in going to the university, which is completely fine, but we also offer pathways to certifications to become a technician. And so we do work with Western Tech, EPCC, and we can help guide those students into apprenticeships and then also have industry mentorships. And then our third pathway is the NASA Aerospace Academy camps. And that's going to be offered in all your YISD high schools, and that's project-based learning and engagement with UTEP engineers and students. So what we like to do is we like to have that mentorship, provide that mentorship from our students that are going to UTEP to the students that are out in the high schools. And because I think they can hear it from adults, but it's a little different when they hear it from their peers. And so that's a component that's really important to us. And so those are the 3 pathways that we would like to be able to offer YISD. I think it's a great opportunity for students in our area, and it's something that we're really excited about. And if they decide to pursue a degree over at UTEP, we do have those research jobs that they get the mentorship with engineers from Lockheed Martin, from Blue Origin, we work with White Sands, we work with everybody in the aerospace field. And so I think these opportunities are I think they're great. I think they're great for Ysleta, they're great for El Paso as a whole, and we're just super excited that we have the opportunity to be here and offer this to the students. So thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Do you guys have any questions about anything? Yes.
On your first pathway, aerospace engineering,
Yes.
can you put it back up? Yes. I understand the engineering design process, because as you well know, I was involved in that as well, 6 to 8. But on the 9 to 12, aerospace engineer, how do you plan to integrate that with the current curriculum, like physics, chemistry, math, and everything else? And of course, communication, English, because it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to tell everybody what you've done. Is there already a plan how to integrate this into our current curriculum at Young Women's Leadership Academy?
Yes, absolutely. So as you know, there's a lot of overlap with mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering. And so a lot of and just engineering in general, and a lot of the classes that they have right now are geared towards biomedical engineering. And so a lot of the engineering concepts are the same. And so what they're going to be focusing on more is taking real-world problems and that you would find in aerospace and applying those into the curriculum that they already have. So it's not a matter of changing a lot of the classes. I think there might be a couple of classes that change, but it's more of a matter of taking real-world problems and putting those into the curriculum that already exist, like into the physics classes and the math classes that they already have and the science classes.
Yeah, they have to have a strong background in those areas in order to address these kind of engineering programs.
Absolutely.
And it's not a catch-up. They have to have it before they start working with these. And like you say, it's real-world problems. I think I forgot my last question. Okay. Oh, so in working with University of Texas at El Paso, is this going to be done remotely as well?
No.
No?
No, this is hands-on, and this is going to be in the classroom. It's going to be students coming out to the different industries. So we don't just work with big industries, we also work with a small, like mom and pop shop type of businesses here in the area. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for mentorship for them to be able to mentor with them.
So when you expand to the rest of our schools at Ysleta, will you have the resources to do that?
Can I talk about that? So one of the things on both of these pathways, Pathway 1 and Pathway 2, these are resources that we have available through a recent grant through the National Science Foundation. So these will actually be pilots for us in terms of working directly on curriculum design with school districts. What we'd like to be able to do then is take what we learn working with you to expand that, not just in YISD, but to other school districts in the region. So this really gives us an opportunity to learn together. So that's really how we'll look at it. And then also, one of the things, partly what we've learned just even doing the NASA camps is as you build your capabilities within your core instruction base, they can kind of take it on and design and redesign without our support. But we do want to be a resource across the district on curriculum design as it relates to aerospace and defense engineering.
And my last question, how will the teachers be, our current teachers and all those, when you bring these programs, will there be some special training for them, or will they be, so they know what they have to do in order to support these kind of programs that you're bringing in, which are wonderful, I think. Yes. It's a long time due that they should have done that.
So one of the wonderful things about the Young Women's Leadership Academy is that they've got an amazing principal. And when we went down there, and it actually started because they invited us for Career Day, and then she asked us what other programs we might have available. So when we told her about it, she asked us if we would be able to implement it school-wide. And that's not something that we had ever done before, but we love to pilot programs, and we like when principals are enthusiastic. And we love to provide opportunities for students. So it's something that we took on, and we just finished the capstone PD yesterday. So we've provided 4 PDs for every teacher at YILA, and it's something new for us, it's something new for them. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely tell you that their teachers are extremely excited about it. And I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the music teacher, if it's the PE teacher, everybody is doing it, and everybody is excited about it.
Okay. I've been in that industry for a long time. I think there's a very, very big need for more women to step up to those careers because, women they can figure things out a little bit faster than us, Sorry to say that, but I experienced that. Women they're more focused, they're not as distracted, And the only thing that I saw was that they never had the, what is it called? Well, this wasn't the courage there. They didn't think they were worth, they weren't as good as the men. And when I had my choice to pick my team, most of them were women because they never let me down. You know, they never came up with excuses. They always did what they were asked to do. So I would encourage that to have more women be participants in these programs, and I know you're doing your best to do that. And that's, of course, Young Women's Leadership, but I'm talking when we get to the other schools as well. I think it's great. I think what you're doing is great. And like I said, it's a long time due that this has, well, I mean, things work its way through. So now we're at the cusp of bringing this to not only Young Women's Leadership Academy, but to the Ysleta and to the community. So I see a great future for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Could you take it back to the screen where you're going to host the young ladies from Young Women's Leadership Academy? I think you're going to ask 360 of them.
That's in June?
There it is. It says April 8th, Sun City Solar Eclipse. You're going to host how many students?
336.
Okay, my question is, and Mrs. Russell Garcia and Lily Leeper and Mrs. Brenda Chacon, they had some concerns that day, not about you taking the young ladies there. So you're going to provide them all with the solar eclipse glasses?
Yes, NASA provided those for us.
NASA did?
Yes.
That's what I was hoping to hear. Do you have any extras?
They're in my car. They're in my car right now. Done.
See, took care of you.
Done.
Because yes, you know, a lot of people have concerns about those. So thank you. We will get together and
I
talk.
tried them out yesterday and they're awesome.
Okay. I'd like to just see one. You know, what do they look? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And just want to echo what I said earlier, how much we appreciate this partnership, the willingness of the district to kind of engage with us on a pilot in this way. And really, honestly, I always tell people, and when you're developing partnerships, and particularly when you're focused always on impact, to have a willing partner that's just, rolls up their sleeves and wants to get it done is just always such a great refresh. And so we've really been able to rely on that and with Melinda and with the district, and we want to thank you for that. And we want to be a resource for you, not just with these programs, but wherever you need us. We want to, when you're focused on aerospace, we want to be there. So, thank you.
Just a quick question. Should the board anticipate a formal MOU?
Yes. So we started the process on our side in terms of putting that together. We'll send that through staff reviews and internal reviews. And then I always hate to promise a timeline because I can control my part of it. I can always control our legal and the other policy pieces of it. But our hope is to get that done as expeditiously as possible and bring it to you fairly quickly.
And will, as part of the terms and conditions, will the Ysleta Independent School District be your exclusive partner?
No, sorry. But you're going to be, you got. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I know I've got the team back there. Item number 2 is an update on a student enrollment presentation, and there's really 2 pieces to it. One, let me get it up. One, of course, is being responsive to a conversation we have had as a district for some time now, and that is the issue of basically 34 years of declining enrollment and the impact that that decline in enrollment has had and will continue to have on not just our school district, but now it's become a regional issue where we've learned that Canutillo, the El Paso Independent School District, the Socorro Independent School District, and even Clint, believe it or not, are experiencing a pattern of declining enrollment throughout the region. And a couple of those districts at recent board meetings have hired demographers to come in and try and capture and codify where the students are going and what the likely student population, projecting the likely student population out over 5 years and 10 years. And they pay these demographers. What we've done, let me find my clicker. What we've done is we've asked some of our people in-house to create a program, and you're going to see the program in a minute. But if you want to look at the sort of chronological or the historical data, this school district at one time was almost exactly as large as the Socorro Independent School District was last year when they celebrated their 48,000th student. And that was the last time that they grew. That happened for us back in 1994-95. That is the last year that this district grew. So for a better part of 2 decades, actually more than 2 decades, there was this really consistent decline in enrollment. And then you'll notice that in about 2019-20, the consistent decline became a severe decline, and that is during the pandemic years. So, average change, losing about 283 students a year, or about 0.6 of our population up to and including the year before the pandemic. Average change went from 0.6 to losing 1,224 students a year, or about 3.2% of our population just in the last 3 years. So subsequently, we went from a district 10 years ago of about 43,000 students to a district of about 34,000 students now. Pretty significant. 3,491 students during the 22-23 school year left our school district. 2,401 students entered our school district from neighboring school districts, other states, and national or Mexican national students. On this chart, you can see where they're going, or how many are going, how many are coming in. So 618 of those students that we're talking about, of those 3,491 students, 618 left the state of Texas. 998 found their way to Socorro ISD. The El Paso Charter School picked up 551. The El Paso Independent School District picked up 901 students. Parents decided to homeschool 188 students. 304 left El Paso. Drops. Administrative drops are those students who likely came to us on some kind of an agreement, and then they violated the agreement with regard to either attendance or behavior, discipline. There are parents still out there who don't feel comfortable with their students in our school districts, so they went with the virtual online academies. Canutillo picked up 66, Clint picked up 145, 48 went to a private school. Sanelli, believe it or not, has 44 of them, and then those that returned to their home country, 341. So without the assistance or the support of a demographer, we can tell you where the students went. We can also tell you where we get students. We get students from out of state. Likely, a majority of that number are probably military families. We get 621 students from Socorro ISD, 245 that return from the charter school. 655 of our students come to us from the El Paso Independent School District. 13 tried homeschooling, didn't work out. We received 170 from somewhere other than El Paso. We don't get any back who are dropped. We don't get the administrative drops back. And those students that go virtual online academy likely get on an accelerated program and get a high school diploma or a GED. So they don't come back. We have 15 from Canutillo, 108 students from Clint, 26 from the private schools, and so on and so forth. When you take all of that into consideration, you know, the net change is a plus 28. Oh, excuse me, not plus 28, but 1,090 students. So even though we're picking up students, and even if you look at the number of students who don't live in our attendance area in the aggregate, this is just a one-year snapshot. In the aggregate, yes, we still have 5,000, almost 6,000 students who come to school every day who don't live in our attendance area. But if this continues to happen every year, that number is going to continue to decline. So at present, we're asking campuses to document additional details. In other words, before the student leaves, before we turn over the CUME folder that the neighboring school district or that a school district in some other state may request, we're asking them to speak with the parent, to speak to the student, and find out, why are you leaving? And for those that are leaving the state or for those that are leaving El Paso, there isn't much we can do about it. But what we want to do is we want to find out how many families are actually leaving because they're dissatisfied, they're disappointed, they're disenfranchised. So this gentleman right here and his team created a dashboard that will allow you as a board and administrators, principals, to get real-time data on what's happening at any one of your schools. So Charlie could go to Riverside Middle School right now. He'd know how many students at present are at Riverside Middle School who do not live in our attendance area. He could look and would know immediately how many students who live in the Riverside Middle School attendance area have left. And it'll tell him where they've gone, as well as it will tell you where they've come from. So I'm going to have Dr. Medellin, drive us through some examples. And if you'd like, pick a school in your district and have him run through it so you can see how to do it. Because when we go live, we're going to give y'all a special link so that you can look at any one of your schools and see whether or not one school is losing more students than the other school. One particular grade level configuration is losing more. So for example, you're going to find that the little ones, they don't leave us. They get to the middle school, they're hanging in there. They get to the 8th grade, they're gone. Theory, the parents work downtown, the parents need a daycare, they drop off the little ones stay with grandparents, aunts, uncles, family. Parents come by, pick them up, take them back towards Socorro and Clint, Sanelli. Student gets to the middle school, he's developed some relationships with friends in the neighborhood who happen to be going to a school in the Socorro Independent School District because that's where they live, and they begin to put pressure on the parents to say, why do I have to go to grandma's and then go to school? Why can't I just stay here? My friends are here, and the middle school's right there. With cellular telephones, parents are becoming more comfortable with the idea of knowing that their child is at home alone in the afternoon because they have a cell phone, they can call them, they can track them, and at some point, we believe that maybe around middle school, our parents start thinking about Well, he makes a good point. I know the neighbors. He's got 4 or 5 friends here. It would be more convenient for me. I don't have to pull off the 10 and drop them off at the grandparents' house. I don't have to pull off the border highways. So you know what? We're going to try it. By the time the students get to the 8th grade, now there's a lot of pressure because, there's East Lake High School just across the street. There's beautiful New Pebble Hills High School or Americas or El Dorado. And by that point, the student has gotten a little more assertive relative to where they'd like to go to school, which is with their friends that they spend the hours after school. And that's when we think they convince the parent, let us go. And when you look at the numbers, it kind of plays out right around 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. If we can get them in a 9th grade, if we can keep them at the 9th grade, I think our programs, our athletic programs, our facilities, our fine arts programs will make it far less likely than that they'll ever leave the high school. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that they don't leave us at the end of the 8th grade without giving the high school a chance. Out of the top 10 high schools in the region, the Ysleta Independent School District occupies the first 7 steps. Guess how many high schools we have? We have 7, right? So it's not the academic program. It's obviously not our athletic programs or our fine arts programs. We need to come up with a way to capture that student, to redirect that student, and get him in our high school building before they have a chance to just assume they need to be with their friends at a neighboring school district. A microcosm of that, and she's still in the room, is what happens to Melinda every year. They start putting pressure on the parent. They start putting pressure on the parent. They start putting pressure on the parent. They want to go to the homecoming dance. They want to go to the football game, the basketball game. And then parents who had made commitments to us, genuine commitments to us, this generation loves their kids. They just say, okay, go, right? And the investment that we've made, right, walks out the door, and the good student that we develop, that we created, goes over and takes STAR exams and EOC exams for somebody else. So with this, we're going to train our principals. Our principals will be comfortable. We're going to expect them to frequently look who's left, who's come in. If they've left, who have you assigned to make a phone call? Why have they left? And then capture that information and make it available so that when we're going to put together some kind of I hate to say the word because it can get out of hand, committee on declining enrollment and remedies, potential remedies for that. So that's starting now, but it'll be fully up and live and ready to go on July 1 of the 2024-25 school year. And you will be able to, first 5 days of school, you'll be able to go in and go, okay, what does Paso Dale look like this year? What did it look like last year? How in the world did we end up losing 40 third graders or things like that? That gives you the ammunition or that's a terrible use. You don't need ammunition. It gives you the background to be able to say, hey, what's going on at Tierra del Sol? I see they lost 12 third graders. Well, let's find out. And if it works, we should be able to go to Tierra del Sol and sit with the principal and say, tell me about the 12 kids that are no longer with us. And the principal should be able to say, well, this young man, this family decided This family, dad got a new job. It's out on the east side. They're looking to buy a new house. Whatever it is, we should be able to provide you with an explanation of what's happening. Go ahead, my friend.
Thank you. Good evening. The way that this report is set up, it is looking at the students that are leaving and are coming in, and a way of thinking about this process, because it's fairly complex. Students are coming in and out of our schools pretty much every day. And so one way to think about this, if you want to simplify it a little bit, you could think about counting the number of cars on I-10. So at a specific point, when you think about I-10, there's a set number of cars on I-10, and there are cars continuously coming in different ramps on-ramps, and there are cars continuously leaving in certain on-ramps. And so the idea of this report is to take a snapshot day by day of which students are leaving our schools at that particular day, which students are coming in, and then try to make sense of how many, what's the difference between them and things like that. And so you will notice that this report has 3 different sections in 3 different colors, and that is to help a little bit figure out what's going on with the report and what it means. So the left-hand side, the outbound students, is in green. And that green section is looking at the students who are outbound, those students that were enrolled with us the previous school year and are no longer enrolled with us this year. Now, there are some students that leave our schools during the year, go somewhere else, don't like it again, don't like it over there, of course, because we're better, and then they come back in, right? And so those kinds of we don't catch those movements in this report. We're just looking at students that were with us the last year and were not with us this year as of right now. And you will notice then on the outbound students, what you can see is the total number of students that have left the district from their previous school year, and then a breakdown of where they are, where we have been able to verify that they enrolled this school year. Now, for each one of these groups, we can click on the destination itself, and it will tell us the different campuses that total number is doing. So, for example, for YISD ISD, there were 619 students who were with us last year that are no longer with us and are now on YISD ISD. And out of those, 73 are from Parkland, 41 were at Eastwood, 36 were at Parkland Middle, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see here, you can look at specific destinations and then see which campuses those destinations are coming from. And so this answers the question of who is leaving out of state, from which campuses. So an answer to that would be just a click away on this section. Now, if we want to ask where are students leaving from a particular campus, then we have a drop-down menu at the left-hand corner of that green section that has campuses. And so we can select a campus here, and what it will do is will show you that particular campus and then where the students have gone for that campus in particular. And so then that answers a different question. Out of this particular campus that I'm interested in, where are they going? Which are the destinations of those students?
So it's fair to say that 186 students who attended Hanks High School last year are no longer at Hanks High School. 43 of those 186 students are in the Socorro Independent School District. 27 are pending. We're trying to find out where they are. 26 have gone to a charter school. 25 have left El Paso. 18 went to YISD. Will you click on YISD so it can tell us where those 18 students went?
Well, we don't know where those students, which particular
We just know they
campuses.
went to
This
that
one
district?
won't. Right, it's just this district because the quality of the data declines the greater the detail we have. We are required to ascertain that a student has enrolled at a particular place before we can code them as leaving our schools. Otherwise, we have to code them as dropouts. And so the students that are pending are actually pending because we are waiting on documentation from the campus that they said they were going to so that they can confirm that the student actually has enrolled at that campus. And once we know that, then we can put it in here. But not everybody has a campus, and so we can tell which district and which general area. We can definitely work on adding a little bit more information as we work on this section. The other piece of this report that mirrors the outbound students is the blue section on the right-hand side. Those are the students that were not enrolled at YISD last year and have now enrolled with us. And so on this particular one, then we can ask the same questions. Out of the students that are with us, the 2,871 students that are with us that were not with us before, where are they coming from? Where are they telling us they're coming from? And so you can see a breakdown of the previous locations, and then for that particular location, in which campus they are arriving from the location. And so then this answers the question, how many students are coming in from each particular station? How many are coming from Socorro, for example? And so from there we can see that out of the 2,871 students that came in, 426 came from Socorro ISD, and they went 41 went to Del Valle Elementary, 38 went Eastwood High School, 30 to Bel Air High School, and so on and so forth. Now, if we want to know a particular school, where are those students coming from, what new students are coming from, then we can select a particular campus, and we can see, for example, here in Bel Air, out of the 188 students that were not enrolled with us, but are now at Bel Air High School, 30 come from Socorro, 25 come from out of El Paso, 12 from private schools, 8 from out of state, 7 from home schools, et cetera, et cetera. Yes.
Could you go back and I was interested, where they're coming from. I was interested in the region of Clint, way at the bottom there. Where did they, most of them go?
So from Clint, 13 are going to Del Valle Elementary, 10 to Del Valle High School, 5 to Del Valle Middle, 4 to Bel Air Middle, 4 to Lancaster, 4 to Ysleta Middle, 3 to Eastwood High School, 3 to Glen Cove. And then we can go back.
And I think right there in that little bit of data, I think at least, let's see, can you put it back to where the Del Valle and all them, yeah, 13, 10, that's 23, 28 out of 82. That's a pretty good percentage that's going to Del Valle.
Yes.
I mean, I'd be interested as to ask why are they so interested in Del Valle? Could it be the location of it or for the parents? Or that's one of the things that I think we could use as data to ask a little bit more detail as to why these students are choosing to go in that area.
Yes, and that's one of the advantages of this kind of data, that this data doesn't tell us why students are going where they're going, but it allows us to focus the question like you just did and say, well, why are they going to Del Valle from here? And that gives us a starting point to then look at those students and ask those questions.
Yeah, and that way we could understand, is there something that they like about Del Valle that we can even promote more to attract more students or keep them there? So, I mean, that's just something that I would think would be some of the questions or, to ask.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a way in this report, and I'll go through it right now, where we can identify those students so we can just ask their families to see why it's going on. The other piece that you'll notice in the middle, it says match net population change. And this is where this idea of looking at what happens on a highway kind of starts making a little bit more sense. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to see how many cars are going into the highway and how many cars are getting out of the highway on the same exit. So if we want to know by Hawkins how many cars are leaving or coming in, we add those together to see if we're getting fewer cars than were before or more cars than were before. That's the general idea here. What we're trying to do with the students then is we're trying to match how many students left to a particular destination and how many students are coming from that particular destination, and are we getting a net change, a positive net change, a negative net change, right? And so on that one you can see then that we have them set up as the reds are the number of students that we are losing to that destination is higher than the ones that we're gaining. And the greens are the number of students that we're getting from that destination are higher than the ones that we're losing.
Could you change the outbound students back to all, please?
This one?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Now, one thing that we have to be careful here is that these numbers are not going to match each other, because we have to, what we're doing is we're matching different locations with different students, and we're looking at actually two different groups of students that are no longer with us and students that are with us. And so these three colors represent three different groups of students. Okay, so those numbers may not match if you're looking at it.
That's why the match net population change isn't equal outbound
Yes, sir,
students and inbound?
That's why you will see that. They won't necessarily match, because we have some of the pending students and things like that, and so it doesn't always match up. That's why we have a different set of values instead of values within the same group, so that you can see what's going on in a clearer way.
Looking at this, this middle one is like Socorro, minus 344 that we lost to Socorro. Again, can we match that to which schools they probably came from?
Well, and that's the thing that
We lost them from Ysleta.
Because what we lost in reality is that we lost 811 students to Socorro.
Well, yeah, but for this,
But we gained 426.
Again, I'm looking at the Socorro district is on our boundary to the east. I'm more interested, did we lose more students from those particular schools that are close to that boundary? Or did we lose proportionally even across the board from Eastwood, Riverside, Bel Air? That's what I'm trying to comprehend. Or did we lose students that are on the fringe of the boundary between Ysleta and Socorro?
So that is a set of data that we can easily see from the green side. If we select Socorro ISD, we can see that 61 left from Del Valle High School, 54 from Hanks High School, 43 from Hanks Middle, 43 from Hanks High School, 33 from Lancaster, 32 from Bel Air Middle, 31 from Bel Air High School. And so you can see here how many of those students by campus went to Socorro ISD.
And for me, the interesting part, just looking at it, because I really haven't looked at it that closely, is you don't have any from Riverside. Maybe a few.
We have a few, but,
yeah.
but
And
much
that's
fewer than
categorically, I think we could come up with a better understanding of why. Is it because of how close they are to Socorro, or is it something else that is acting on them to move to Socorro? I mean, it could be parents looking for a new home, or it could be change of jobs for the parents. But I'm just interested on the regional part, as these schools like Riverside. Riverside is how many again?
Well, if we were to look at
No, how many left for Socorro District?
let's take a look. Riverside High School, they had 11 students leave to Socorro.
And then if you compare that to the other areas, I mean, to me, that would raise some questions as to what is the difference there. Is it locality, or is it something else that is driving these students to Socorros? I mean, it could be something that's just, data is data. You could interpret it many other ways, but I'm just interested in that part. And I think that when you start looking at this a little closer, all these questions would pop up and say, okay, what reasons are there? I mean, you can interpret data many ways, but for me, just looking at it right now, that would be a big question as far as being a data analyst.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. That's one of the things that we enjoy on this one.
Good evening, President Ochoa. And when Dr. Medellin shows you the student side, actually, we know who the students are. Yeah. So our principals, our schools are calling and saying, hey, why did you leave? And they'll give us the reason why we leave. So in addition to this data, the data is only the data, like you said. But the follow-up on finding out two questions, why are you leaving? And why are you coming in is critical for us to know exactly the questions you're asking. So he'll show you the student side in a bit, but the principals can drill down to who the students are.
Yeah, and not everybody will volunteer that information, but if we can get a pretty good response, I think it would provide us a better insight as to what's happening in our district. It's like being a doctor. You look at everything, the blood pressure, their X-rays, everything, and you try to put together a picture of their health. And I think that's what and I'm very happy for this, that we're starting to look at it from a data point of view, not just make assumptions, because making assumptions sometimes gets you in trouble.
Yes, sir. Yes. And so back on the middle measurement. That one is an overall. We want to see where are we gaining students, where are we losing students. This one has two options. The first option is if we want to look at a particular grade level, we could, for example, choose 4th grade. And you can see here how many students were losing in 4th grade to each one of the sections and how many were winning over. And so it provides you with an overall view of a particular grade level or an overview of the entire district from kinder to 12th grade.
Dr. Medina, can you
Yes,
put
sir.
that in 8th grade?
Grade
For
3?
the 8th grade?
8th grade, yes, of course.
Thank you. Can you put up 9th grade?
I'm sorry?
Can you put 9th grade? Can you?
9th grade, yes, of course.
And again, as Dr. Latorre said, the elementary levels and all those grades are probably the changes are because of parents. They're physically have to move or got a home, or they change jobs. The high schools are the ones that are a little bit more interested, and that's where I guess we could focus a lot of our resources and energy and finding out what is it that they, of course it could be their friends, but besides that, what programs could we not entice them, provide for them that will want them to stay in Ysleta. And I think this is great. I mean, I don't know who came up with this, but it's a great tool. It's a very good tool. And I think it'll go a long ways in answering a lot of our questions, not only now, but in the future.
Thank you. And we can create even more detailed questions on this one. On the top, you will notice that there are checkboxes, and these checkboxes are filters. And so if we wanted to see, for example, students that are coded as military connected, that have a parent in the military, we can just click on military connected, and the two graphs on the left and the right change to tell us which students are leaving and which students are coming in and from where they're coming in. So these numbers that we see here, 214 students that left us, 219 students that came in, those are students that are coded as military connected the last time they were in our system. If we wanted to see a different type of student. Yes,
Let me see special ed, please.
No, well, let me ask this on the military. I think every district experiences military mobility, and it would be good to see over the average of the years how this is occurring, and does the military reacts to world events. If there's Iraq or something like that, they're certainly going to be moving a lot of their military, and I think that could also be recorded in this data that, hey, at this point in time, something happened in the other part of the world, military decided to mobilize a lot of our military. This promoted a lot of changes in our students leaving our district because of that. So it's just one of those, I mean, there's so many possibilities for this kind of data, but just to understand what is, or anticipate what might happen, especially if it's some world event, we can also be prepared for it and developing our budget and everything else, instead of just being in the unknown territory for many, many months. Okay. What was the question?
I was just curious. I was looking to see what special ed looked like. We've been known for years. We've had a great reputation in special ed.
And for special ed, you can see that we've lost 313 students and we've gained 346. So again, we have this continuous flow of students coming in and out. But we're getting more special education students in our district than out because of the strong programming that we have.
When we lose students, is the data capturing due to graduations?
For graduating students are not included in this analysis, and neither are the P3 pre-K students, because those are considered the endpoints of the pipeline.
Yes.
And so it skews the data, right? If we wanted to look at it demographically, then we can absolutely include the pre-K and the 12th grade, because then we can see if we're losing more 12th graders than we're gaining pre-Kers, then our overall, eventually our population will still decrease. So we are able to do that. We can manipulate the filters on this report to show it that, but at first it doesn't, so that it removes that additional piece to think about.
So we're not considering like 11th graders, or 12th graders, they're not part of this data that were in Ysleta, and then they're not part of Ysleta anymore.
Right, no, if they graduated from us in last year, they are not part of this count. They were with us, they finished their school,
Okay.
They graduated last year, they're not included in this count at all. Right.
Dr. De La Torre, you had mentioned that there's other school districts in El Paso that are outsourcing research like this. So maybe Ms. Mata can help you get a copyright, and we can create a software as a service and offer it as a discount. I personally think it's amazing. I really appreciate the work that went into it, and I think it's a fantastic tool that will help bring what we've already known as an issue to light, I think, and put it in the forefront, so that way everybody working together can figure out how can we provide the best opportunities for students to make sure that they not only stay here, but we attract more. Thank you.
Yeah, I
And if
think
we can
it
make some
it
dollars
serves,
off of
yeah,
it in the
it
meantime.
serves as a good starting point, and then as you guys have more questions and you want to dig deeper, we add layer and layer, as long as we can protect the fidelity of the data, right? So that we learn more and more. And I don't know that we're going to learn a lot. I think a lot of it's driven, obviously, by the residential development in Socorro. I think they saw a decline primarily when the interest rates went up, and all of a sudden people were priced out of buying homes at 7, 8, 9% instead of 2, 3, and 4. Should they bring those interest rates down again, then we may see more families go out and buy their first home. But it makes for a great conversation, and you don't need to go out and get a demographer. We worked with a demographer when I first got here in 2014, and I don't know if Shane remembers or Connie, but we were supposed to have flattened out at 40,000 students 6 years ago. What they shared with us looked like this: little decline, straight line. You should never expect to be under 40,000 students. We know that's not true. In their defense, they could not have anticipated a pandemic. But even without the pandemic, we had already dropped below the 40,000 student line because they did not take into account what all of that residential development in Canutillo and Socorro and Clint, Horizon City, the impact that was going to have on our school district. But this is a great start. I just wanted to brag about the work you've done and the fact that this will be available to them. So, if they go to the school and they're looking at enrollment and the school's losing a teacher because in 2024-25, they have, 40 less students than they had the previous year, they can go in right away and they can look at the grade level. They can make a phone call. They can ask, where'd these kids go? We can give them more or less some direction. Socorro, YISD, IDEA, Harmony. And so it's good to start the conversation. Any other questions? Because it kind of segues into what we're going to talk about next.
Yes. I have to express how appreciative and how impressed I am with this presentation, how impressed I am with this software. I do have a data company. And so I understand this is just a starting point, and then you build from there. And, we can start to acquire more data. I can visualize how this is going to look in the future. I'm very appreciative of this because, before I was on the board as an outsider and as I was campaigning for this position, I was very critical of the attitude that I perceived from the district, which is that there's nothing we can do about it. And I was met with a lot of skepticism, addressing our declining enrollment as my top priority. So to see this presentation, to be having this conversation, that tells me that we have not given up on enrollment. At the very least, we need answers. And I think this is a great starting point to do that. I think people ask me, how are you going to do it, Mr. Hernandez? And I said we're going to coalition build. At least I was going to work on coalition building with different community leaders, both government and private, and I still intend to work on that. And I'm hoping to have the support of all my colleagues. And it seems that the district is now very committed. This is a great tool. And I also was going to highlight, Trustee Haggerty beat me to it, that this was done in-house. I've always been critical. I've always thought sometimes government entities spend too much hiring unnecessary people to do things that I think could be done in-house. And I know this isn't easy. I know this requires a lot of talent. I know it's tedious to code this out. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for setting the example that we can do things in-house and have it, be state of the art and accessible, user-friendly to us and the entire district. And I strongly believe in time we will start to get answers that will help us strategize. And I'm still extremely optimistic that the trend will start to change, because it should, knowing the type of district that we are, everything that's been accomplished, especially over these past 10 years, and seeing where the other districts are in the area. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Parents should be lining up to send their students to Ysleta Independent School District, and this is going to help us strategize that. So again, I'm extremely appreciative of this and extremely impressed. Thank you, Dr. Melin. Thank you, Dr. De La Torre. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses and what answers we get. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a great tool. I think developing house is just wonderful. I just want to know, how are we going to protect our investment, especially from somebody outside entity that is in the business of doing demographics, or how are we going to protect this?
Well, I think Gloria has set the template, the model. Ms. Chavez in information technology has 2 or 3 patents from programs that we've developed in the past. I think she's had the evaluation instrument, believe it or not, patented. Org chart, you have 9 patents. So as this gets going and it becomes reliable and you all start using it and you start saying, hey, I tried to do this, but I couldn't get it to do that, let us know. We go back, work with him. She's got 2 or 3 amazing programmers, computer scientists in her department. We used to have, I think, 4. We lost one to the tech world, who actually got a job in Boston, Massachusetts, but she does the work in El Paso, Texas. all from the comfort of all from the comfort of her office because she has children. But people like that are invaluable right now. Shane would know, there's just such a shortage of people with that skill set.
No, I was asking those questions because I've had the experience in my other previous employments that our programs would be coded, we would be developed for analysis of big systems, and then we'd have somebody, a contractor, come and be poking around, asking questions, and then all of a sudden it was part of their assets that they were selling to other government entities, and hey, that was ours. You took over that, that kind of development, which I think is not good.
Yeah,
Good
perfect.
evening, Mr. Ochoa. Priscilla Mata, Legal Counsel for Ysleta ISD. So there's definitely ways through legal channels of protecting what we would consider proprietary information.
Yes.
Belonging to the school district, much like a logo, for example, to one of your campuses or the Ysleta ISD logo. And all of that is essentially laid out in your board policy. It would work very similarly, and I'm sure Gloria has gone through these channels already to make sure and protect any sort of inventions, new software or applications, data. All of this information, of course, also protected by federal laws that basically tell us that we have to maintain the confidentiality of that information, which is also very important because parents and students trust us with that information.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to, when the time is right, help out in that regard.
Yeah. One of the programs that was developed in-house was our enrollment, online enrollment that was done in-house. It is very different from the other districts, and I think we're protecting that one as well because even though we would like to share it, but a lot of the money and investment came from our taxpayers as well. So it's a situation where we want to protect our assets as much as we can. Thank you. It is excellent. I'm looking forward to the further development. I know this is the first phase, but knowing in software development, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And the data that it will provide will be at a click of a button. That it'll just be fantastic and answer all the questions that we all have is why is this happening? Why is it happening over here? And things like that. And maybe even so to predict based on what's happening in our area or outside of the area, we can predict, okay, we might have an impact because this is going to, looks like this, like the economy, for one thing, or things like that.
And Mr. Ochoa, if I can just add, and Mr. Hernandez, you're absolutely right. Most of what we do, this gentleman right here develops in-house. So most of our data tools are all in-house. We have a great team, and he does a great job, and I really wanted to state that on the record about an outstanding job. Anytime we have an idea, it's just an idea, but he does the magic and gets it done. So we're very appreciative of everything that he does for us.
Yes, very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say that we also had it during the pandemic, the dashboard. We had it during the pandemic that he developed, or his team developed with other people, that provided us up-to-date data that helped us evaluate what we were doing to protect our students and our teachers and ourselves. I mean, this is another tool that is just fantastic. I think I can't say enough. I mean, are they paying you enough?
Yeah. And that particular tool, under the circumstances, we felt we needed to share. So we actually allowed all of the school districts in El Paso to basically rely on our dashboard. Although I don't think anyone adhered to the agreement as strictly as we did. I mean, there were times when they'd bail out and they'd close school or they'd stop participating in extracurricular or athletic, where we would say, nope, the science says that when the number is here, we move forward. And sometimes it was uncomfortable because you'd hear all these statistics, but that dashboard really, I think, set us apart as a school district, and I think it solidified that the Ysleta Independent School District is a school district, but beyond that, it's really something the entire community, I won't say the city yet, but our community at least relies on us to take care of certain things. Lindley and her team made sure that there was breakfast, lunch, afternoon snacks. I mean, it was a moment of pride, a point of pride for us, and that dashboard, much like this one, became the most commonly used vehicle, instrument, to determine whether or not students and teachers should still be in classrooms. Great job.
Thank you.
Any other question? Well, thank you, and I applaud you.
Thank you very much.
The third item, the brains behind some of this, thank God they're sitting in the audience, but we're going to segue through it very quickly, and that is where we are relative to the budget. I know most of you have seen that neighboring school districts are wrestling with some challenges. I want to preface this presentation by saying it is not that we do not have challenges. We're going to have some challenges as well. They're just not the level of severity that some school districts in the state of Texas are facing, and a lot of that is because of how they utilized their ESSER funds. They hired a lot of permanent people with what we call soft money or one-time money. So if I can get the presentation going, you're all familiar with this, the budget development process timeline. We're going to do this by way of background just to refresh where we are. Obviously, two big pieces is projecting enrollment accurately. Anytime you over-project enrollment and the students don't walk in the classroom and you've hired 2, 3, 4 teachers, you've made a $320,000 investment, a $500,000 investment, and the students aren't there to support the investment. So when we project enrollment, we project the decline in enrollment aggressively, because you can always add teachers at the beginning of the year. Once you hire a teacher and they sign a contract, you can't let the teacher go, nor would you let the teacher go. So project aggressively with the understanding that if the students arrive, or if students arrive in excess of what you projected, you can quickly mobilize and get teachers in the classroom, but you're not overspending and it's not running against your proposed budget or adopted budget. And then we've got guidelines for staffing. You know, every school has a principal, every school has a certain number of assistant principals based on the enrollment. At the elementary schools, we staff at 20-1. At the secondary schools, we staff 25-1. That generates the number of counselors, and it's basically the anatomy of an elementary school, what that looks like, and the anatomy of a secondary school. When thinking about revenue, we know there are two primary sources. Really, there are three, but the federal government, as far as revenue is concerned, most of federal funds are categorical. In other words, you don't have the luxury or the latitude to spend them on anything you want. They come with very strict guidelines, Title I, Title II, etc. The local tax effort relies on two primary data points. One is the property tax rate, and the other is the assessed property values. What's happening right now in El Paso is people who have received their property tax bill, many of them are contesting it because the value of their homes, according to the Central Appraisal District, have increased significantly. When the homes increase significantly, of course, the homeowners' taxes increase significantly. So you'd have a lot of people out there who are still perhaps contesting their taxes. And so we won't know, I believe, until the end of August, Lindley, when the final roll is.
We get our, by law, they must submit final certified values by July 25th, and they always
July
submit them on
25th.
that day. We get preliminary certifieds on April 25th, we get an update on May 25th, June we get another update, July is the final certified date.
So then, at that point, we would apply our rate. And we'll talk about our rate a little because I still, 10 years later, have to explain that there is a distinct difference between a tax rate and the actual tax burden that homeowners incur. But before we get to that, I want to show you something. This is the enrollment over the last 10 years. So when I arrived, 42,488 students became 42,266. That means we lost around 200 students, then 41,000. And you can see it is a pattern of decline in enrollment, but it is relatively mild until we get to the year 2021. Enrollment is important. We've been speaking about enrollment. We'd like to find a way to either flatline the current enrollment or, in a perfect world, increase enrollment. But your money, your revenue isn't generated by enrollments. It's generated by the green line. So even though we had 42,488 students, we're getting paid for 39,511 students because the average daily attendance is 96% of the 42,488. So sometimes we get a lot of grief with the eye rolling about, oh my God, here we go with attendance awards again and attendance tracking. And we have leadership meetings and we put up their schools, and their schools have their average daily attendance to date. And, some of the principals are embarrassed because, they're at 92 or they're at 93, and in their category, we do it by category. So we say, who has the best student attendance for the month of September, October? And you've got, let's say Del Valle High School comes in at 94, 95, and then you've got Parkland, and this is just illustrative. Parkland comes in at 92, 93. Well, why do you have to put it up there? Because, I'll give you a scenario. There are scenarios where your enrollment can go down, but if your ADA goes up, you can recover the money that you lost from the enrollment going down. And in our district, at present, every percentage point is $3 million. Last year, district-wide, ADA, 91%. This year, at this point, district ADA, 94%. That's 3 percentage points. That's almost $9 million, but we've got 9 weeks to go, and they happen to be the last 9 weeks of the year. So, they test, which means enrollment should be solid, except for those grade levels where they don't take a test. So we're going to talk to our principals tomorrow. You got to find reasons for seniors to come to school. You got to find reasons for, the 8th graders that aren't taking a test to come to school. I never thought I'd say this, but tomorrow I'm going to actually say pizza parties, museums, field trips, space camps, because if we can maintain the 94%, we're going to secure $9 million that we didn't have last year to offset the cut that's coming our way because of what's happening in Austin and what's happening at the federal government level with SHARS. So attendance is going to, other than the STAR and the EOC, attendance is going to be huge at all 59 schools, right? Reward kids, have a party, give out T-shirts, get a business partner to buy them, tickets to a Chihuahuas game or things like that. I need them in school academically, but now they've become part of a possible financial solution. I'll go on. All right, this is the homestead thing that I want you guys, and I know you are, super familiar with, super comfortable with. The easiest way usually is to use a $100,000 home. Here's $380,000 homes in 3 different school districts. there's only one school district, and to my knowledge, there's only a handful of school districts left in the entire state of Texas where you all give them a 20% homestead exemption right off the top, which was okay when the state was only giving a $15,000 homestead exemption. Then it became a $25,000. Then it became a $40,000. What is it this year? $100,000. So if the average price of a home, which this is, in Ysleta is $180,000, El Paso doesn't give the 20%. Socorro doesn't give the 20%. Both of those homes at that point are still being valued for tax purposes at $180,000. We've already taken the $180,000 and we've reduced it by $36,000, or we're going to tax them as if the home was $144,000. Then we're going to be given a $100,000 state homestead exemption. Now, all of a sudden, yes, the El Paso Independent School District's $180,000 home for taxing purposes relative to schools becomes an $80,000 home. Socorro becomes an $80,000 home. They've taken the $100,000 and added it to the $144,000, and now our family is being taxed as if their $180,000 home is really a $44,000 home. Now, you'll notice on total tax rate that the Ysleta Independent School District does have the highest tax rate, $1.28. El Paso only has $1.13. Socorro, $1.24. But because we've reduced it with our homestead exemption, even when you take $1.28, that homeowner is going to pay $564 in taxes to the Ysleta Independent School District. The other two homeowners are going to pay, respectively, $910 and $1,000. So they like to really focus on tax rate when they talk to the media, when they talk to their board, when they're talking to their public. It's always tax rate, tax rate. Look at Ysleta, they have a much higher tax rate. We should go out for a bond, because even if we went out for a bond, our tax rate would not be as high as Ysleta's tax rate. They never stop to say, however, the tax burden, what our taxpayers actually pay, is half of what our taxes or our homeowners pay. All right, so this is something too that kind of comes up, and you have to be very sort of delicate with it. People say, hey, I pay taxes. Hey, I pay taxes. I expect, these schools, I expect these programs. They do. They absolutely do. We're a property poor district. We're called, I think, a 41. So yeah, we're a 41 school district that's property poor. A 42 means that their property value and their tax collections significantly exceed the bottom line. The El Paso community pays for 18.2% of our students' education. The state pays for almost 80%. So 80 cents out of every dollar we get from the state. It's good because it doesn't excessively burden people that don't have the resources that some people do in the other part of the state. But it's bad because all of a sudden we are so reliant on the state that anytime they do something dumb, it really hits us because we're depending on them to give us 80 cents for every dollar. The federal government, it's always been minimal, but this year they're going to hurt us too. So after doing all of those calculations, if you look at what will 2024-25 look like compared to 23-24, you're going to see that we will have before we do anything, we're going to have $18,491,060 less than we had last year. We do have less students. I mean, that's what we're anticipating. So we can do what we do with less students. But any adverse condition in our district is not related to ESSER. It's not related to any decisions made on this dais or recommended by administration. It is simply a product of either a decline in enrollment without an increase in ADA, because what I tell you 3 percentage points are in ADA. $9 million. All of a sudden, 18 is 9. Now we're back to being manageable. But there's some hard, and by the way, all these numbers are written in mayonnaise because you never know what's going to happen in Austin in the next 90 days. In the past, this is what you saw in this school district, anyway. The blue line is how much money we got. The green line is how much money y'all spent. In other words, the budget you adopted. You'll notice in 14-15, good budget. 15-16, balanced. 16-17, balanced. 17-18, balanced. 18-19, balanced. 19-20, balanced. Now right here it's a little tricky because we did receive ESSER money, so ESSER money was helping us make sure that we balanced the budget, because what we did was we moved those expenses that qualified under ESSER and paid for them with ESSER money to try and secure our operating budget or our revenue. And then, for the first time last year, and our employees deserve it, our teachers deserve it, and more importantly, y'all have said, we will always be one of the top 2, 3 paying districts in the area because we are on an island out here competing with 9 other districts for every student coming out of a teacher preparation program at NMSU, UTEP, Sol Ross. That's where we get our teachers. If you start letting that beginning salary fall, they're going to definitely end up in Socorro or in El Paso. So we've always been the best paying district in the region. It cost us that year. That year, when you apply something to the salary schedule, then that stays with you forever. And so in 23-24, I think we worked it so it was only about a $5 million discrepancy between the money that we knew we were getting and the money we believed we would spend. Now, when you say, well, what the hell are you spending the money on? That little shaded area down there, that is all salary and benefits. So you can see the salary and benefits kind of followed the same little pattern, but the point being made here is that 85% of your budget, whatever that number is, 408, 387, 87% of that, as of today, is already dedicated to people next year. So you can't really do anything with that money. It's not like you can say, well, let's go back in and take a look, because we don't do that to our employees and to the people that have allowed us to accomplish what we've accomplished. So let's move forward. Now this one kind of tells you a little bit of a different story. This one shows you that the district, anytime they lose enrollment, we're keenly aware. And the reason for that is, y'all, like I said, y'all spend 6 months going through this. We spend the whole year just eyeballing it. So when we see that the enrollment is going down, it makes sense that what used to be 3,000 teachers 10 years ago is now 2,582 teachers. It's the right thing to do. Less students, less teachers. But because you guys have demonstrated support, value, you've supported our recommendations for the most part, that is how much more we spend on salary and benefits today. So today we spend almost $15 million more than we spent 10 years ago when I arrived here. Today the entry-level salary, I believe, is $60,500. I believe when I arrived in 14-15 it was closer to $42,000. Everything we did was the right thing to do. So, not sorry. The allocations are below, and there it is. There's the 85.61% that's going to go to payroll and benefits. So then you say, okay, well, let's narrow this discrepancy down. Contracted services, water, and gas have all gone up, especially electricity and fuel for our buses. So there isn't a lot of room in contracted services. General supplies, Teachers need what teachers need. Miscellaneous, we'll take a look at it. Capital outlay, because we've passed 2 bonds, because we've made an investment of almost $1 billion, we've really pulled back on using general fund resources to pay for capital projects. Debt service, that's what we have to pay on our bond loan. And operating transfers, only Lindley knows. All right, so what are the challenges? Well, one, we still have the declining student enrollment, which does reduce our state and federal funding. We're a little nervous about the additional school funding. Is Abbott, now that he has secured, I believe, enough seats in the legislature to get vouchers passed, will he now then say, let me give them, let me throw a bone, let me give them a little bit of money between now and the end of the year? Probably not. SHARS, David has appealed, the state has appealed, and so what SHARS is when you have students who are on an IEP, on a plan, right, and need services outside of what the school typically provides or something that may cost the school something, the federal government reimburses us for those expenses. Texas and the Texas Education Agency failed to meet the requirements statewide. The federal government is penalizing Texas. So they're pulling money back from all school districts, but the best way to do that is not to go school district by school district. They simply went to the state and they said, you were supposed to get $10, here's $4 until you make up the discrepancy, you make up the difference. So it'll take this year and next year before Texas can pay back what the federal government wants from Texas. They're not likely going to be responsive to an appeal because the Biden administration and the current administration in Washington does not like Texas. I don't know why, but they don't like Texas. So we're not hopeful that they're going to do some kind of a reversal and that the $6 million that they were supposed to give us back, that we're going to get them back. We're not going to get them back.
On the SHARS reimbursement reduction, even though we do legally have to provide these services no matter what to these students, right?
Correct.
So we incur that those bills for that, but in the future, there's nothing really that's going to say they're going to reimburse us for that. So it's one of those things that legally we're bound to do this, but like everything, it's not funded by any, especially the federal,
unfunded mandate.
Kind of like everything else that we've been having to go through.
So as we begin to look for a fiscal stabilization plan, and again, this is written in mayonnaise, but if someone said, hey, we want to adopt a budget today, if it were today, and this is just for illustrative purposes, we likely couldn't give a raise. We'd likely have to suspend the holiday stipend. And part of the reason for that is we're going to continue and insulate our employees from any kind of a increase to their health care premium. That's something that I think our employees really hold sacred. We need to look at whether or not teachers who teach elective courses, non-core courses, rather than attend PLCs, can just teach 7 out of 8 for us, like they do at the middle schools now. So this would be high school teachers that, for example, one of the things we hear a lot is, I'm an art teacher, why do I have to go to this PLC? They're talking about data, they're talking about students, they're talking about, disaggregating data and things to do in the classroom, and I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs. Okay, well, why don't you teach 7 out of 8 for us, and we won't require you to go to the PLC. We'll make it focus on the academic piece of it, although I think they have a lot to do with the academic piece. But to save money, you could theoretically, not recommending it, you could ask non-core teachers, elective teachers, to teach 7 out of 8 at our secondary schools and save between $3.5 million. We already talked about insulating employees from premium increases. We always use attrition. So year-round, when positions become vacant because someone has left, It's not an automatic the way it used to be, and it hasn't been for many years. The principal and the staff have to justify that they need that position. Because I'm aware of school districts, for example, that if I have 3,000 kids, but my average daily attendance is 90, how many kids are in the building on average every day? 2,700 students, right? A lot of school district will staff you for 2,700 students. You'll say, I've got 3,000 students. Yeah, you have 3,000 students, but on any given day, there are 2,700 students on that campus that need a supervision or a teacher. Doesn't make you popular with principals in schools, so we don't do that. And then finally, looking at something that very few people would notice, and that is that you move your staffing ratio from 25-1 to 25.5-1 and capture, a couple $2 $3 million. If today was the day to adopt. So what's going to kind of happen between now and April is we're going to keep getting more data. They're going back out to the schools. We're going through the books, and we're saying, okay, if SHARS is a done deal, then we've got to go ahead and accept that we're not going to get that money. We're planning to see 1,500 less students next year. It's aggressive. It's possible we may only see 1,000 student drop. A miracle, maybe you see 800 students, right? But again, plan for the worst, celebrate the best. We'll start looking at anything and everything that is available to try and get us as close as possible to a balanced budget. But I think it's important that at least our community, our employees, recognize that we're unlikely to be as generous as we have been for the last several years. And in the grand scheme of things, if you pick up a newspaper, if you read Texas ISD, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be Texas. They can look at California right now where they are going through a reduction in force at 2/3 of the school districts, because in California, if there's even a chance that someone's going to get laid off, they have to be noticed by March 15th. And in California, they have a right to due process and a hearing, and they go through seniority lists because it's a collective bargaining state. And they got to make sure that you do your seniority perfectly. If you mess up on one person relative to seniority, it changes everything for the person below that, and all of them are coming back. So it's a very tedious. So in California, you can already see that about 2/3 of the school districts are looking at the potential for reduction in force. We're nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. Nowhere near losing our health and welfare plan. Nothing that drastic. We just want to get as close as we can to a balanced budget because of what I just mentioned, with Abbott back in the seat, with the Republicans back in the seat. The legislative session in 25 will be interesting. Yes, sir.
Say that I can see what is driving all this, but say that in 2025, they loosen that money and we can get back in a little bit better situation financially as well. I mean, we're not in dire predicament like other districts, but I'd like to make sure that should there be a time in the future where this will loosen up, we can start and promise our employees that in the future we should be able to resume some of these, their at least their money for at least the lump sum money, some of the raise their rates for employment and things like that. I just don't want them to think that this is a doomsday predicament that it's going to be going on forever and ever. I mean, once once our state gets their act together and we can get this money, that we will certainly reassess our position as far as our financial burden, so we can start giving them the raises that they certainly deserve, because this is like being at home. You lose certain things, income, and you have to tighten your budget. You can't go out and eat all the time. You can't travel in your car anymore as far as it used to be. You have to cut down on a lot of things. But we, as in Ysleta, I don't think we're in such a dire predicament like some of our other districts in the state, not only here. So
No, you're absolutely correct. Because we don't have the double thump. By the double thump is, if you're a district that all of a sudden is in declining enrollment, but you were also a district that used ESSER money, one-time money, to enter into binding agreements, contracts with employees, that's a double pump. That's what gets a district to $33 million upside down. That's what gets a district to $20 million upside down. I can tell you that knowing the people that we have working on this and understanding what we have available, if we are double-digit deficit, I'd be surprised. I think we're still talking something relatively manageable, where you may not be able to get it all back in 1 year, but over a 2-year period, very doable. The other thing I would say is that the minute those vouchers pass, and they will, during the 25th legislative session, unless something happens, as misguided as some of the people are in Austin, the minute he starts handing out 10,000, 10,200, the traditional public school system is going to get a bump. Maybe not a bump like 10,200, but likely 6,200 becomes 7. 6,200 becomes 6,800, right? Which is not fair. No. Absolutely not fair. But he will not be so blatant as to give vouchers to certain people for private school, parochial schools, etc., of $10,000, and leave the majority of schools in the state of Texas at $6,200. He will give us something, and that something in that second year will be more than enough to likely help us recover. What is also true, though, is the days of 4%, 5%, 6%, they're probably gone for a while. But the holiday stipend, which is roughly $3 million, it's about the equivalent of 1%. The reason that the holiday stipend would be the most attractive option for our employees is because it's off the schedule. It's that year, it's done, and then you have to reevaluate the following year. But it's still a $3 million investment, which is the equivalent about 1% in our district. But again, all of this was written in mayonnaise on a hot sidewalk in July. It's already gone.
I have a question. Ms. Leeper, since we have pretty much completed our bond money, our bond projects, and I know that all that money has been allocated for certain projects, but what about the personnel that were handling all these? What is going to happen to them?
That's a great question, thank you. So most of those people are either engineers or have specialties. I think we actually have 4 project managers. Each of them is an engineer and one's an architect. We have other places where we are teaching them, training them to come alongside us. For instance, we have PA systems that we'll have to continue to maintain. It's right up their alley. We have fire protection systems, fire suppression systems that they'll also be able to help with. And then undoubtedly, we still have projects. We got asked this week, will you demolish this wall and rebuild this space this way? And so we always have a need for those people. They're not losing their jobs, but they're going to be directed into different types of positions. And then, as Dr. De La Torre mentioned, if they opt to go somewhere else, then their position would be reevaluated as to whether or not we would.
And I think we're going into the phase now from construction to maintenance for the rest of the,
Yes, sir.
I guess we're done. Yeah, we're going to go into the maintenance period where now we've constructed all these nice brand new schools. We've developed all this renovations, and I mean, just like our football fields, sooner or later they'll have to be. We'll have to invest money to put a new turf in them and stuff like that. But those are maintenance. Now we'll jump into the maintenance effort instead
Yes,
of
sir.
doing construction effort.
That's exactly what happens, but also keep in mind, we have by August 2024 to install all of that additional perimeter fence, replace
Oh,
all
yeah.
of the doors, and then do intruder-resistant film. So we still have
Oh,
significant
no.
projects that are grant-funded where these people will be utilized.
Yeah, I was just wondering about Hanks. I'm still waiting for my perimeter fence out there.
Your perimeter fence is going up, the contractor's putting most of it up.
Yeah, no, I know though that all these programs, but I'm just thinking of personnel. And like you talked about attrition and all that, so say a department loses a key personnel, we can certainly move around and retrain this personnel to take over without having to add to our budget as far as salaries.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A couple things. Attendance, I agree, Dr. De La Torre. Whatever we have to do to get the students in the school to keep the attendance where we want it to be, let's do it. I think those are all great ideas. I have a question, though, regarding students that become ill. Is there any is there any difference made between an ill student or just a student that skips for any reason?
The state doesn't make a distinction.
Yeah, I've come across a couple of parents that have been frustrated with the pressure to keep their kid in school while also being told at the same time, if your kid's sick, don't bring him here. But hey, you need to bring your kid here. That's the way the parent feels. I don't know if you have, is it just a situation we can't do anything about, or do you have any words on that?
I think Dr. Chacon has far more experience with that, but I'm familiar with that dynamic.
Yeah, you're right. It's a balance, right? Because here we are wanting to come to school, but oh, you're sick, stay home. And then the school calls them for either excessive absences or LOC and things like that. So the state doesn't distinguish. When a student's not here, we don't claim ADA. It's an excused absence, though. We distinguish between unexcused and excused. So in your board policy, an excused absences, they can make up the makeup work, so on and so forth. We still don't claim ADA. If it's unexcused, obviously the kid is not allowed to make up the absences and so forth. What the state says is that students have to be in school 90% of the school year. But they don't make the difference between excused or unexcused.
When it comes to funding, there's no difference. If they're sick, too bad.
Right.
And this is a decision by the state? Okay, thank you. Just more of a comment. Last year, we approved a budget that was $5 million in debt. The year before that, the board approved a budget that was $10.5 million in debt. I think that's obviously a trend that cannot continue. I understand why those proposals were made, but I think it's, we have to deal with it, like President Ochoa said, we got to work with what we have. If we continue during that trend, it's going to collapse eventually. And I strongly believe that for teachers and for students, this is still the best district they can work in, the best district they can attend without having to approve a budget that increases the deficit. We can't be having expenditures exceed revenue. So that's just, my comment to let my colleagues know where I stand, where I'm going to continue to stand, and I appreciate this presentation, the previous presentations, and the ones coming before we do take that vote, because it's showing me the dedication and the effort that the district is making to get us as close as we can possibly be to having it all. The highest salaries, the best facilities, and just the best overall, best educational environment for everybody. I think it's a challenge, and it takes work, and it takes a lot of looking into a lot of things and making tough decisions. So thank you to everybody that's taken upon this challenge. Because I'm just you guys are doing the work, and I want to acknowledge that work you're doing. I know it's tough, but yeah, I can't approve a budget that'll be putting us in deficit again, and I hope my colleagues feel the same way. So thank you for this presentation.
Yeah, I'm through.
Okay, thank you. I think it was very informative. I think we asked a lot of good questions, and we look forward to our next monthly meeting next, where we can get some more answers, or maybe some better feel of what our budget's going to look like. Okay. Let me get here. All right. We will now discuss the agenda items as listed in the posted notice of the regular meeting of the Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees for March 2024 and related recommended motions with the Superintendent and Executive Cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the Superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action on said items as the March 2024 regular Board of Trustees meeting. Please stop me if you have any questions or wish to pull an item for separate consideration. Consent items, consider approval of minutes for the Board of Trustees workshop at regular board meeting February 13, 2024, 6 p.m. Consent item number 2, monthly financials update for January 2024. Consent item number 3, approve annual investment policy review and related board resolution. Consent item number 4, approve annual investment training resolution. Moving on to the action items. Action item number 1, donation to the Ysleta Community Adult Learning Center. Action item number 2, approve Lone Star Investment Pool Resolution. On this one, what does this mean?
Under the Public Funds Investment Act, we are required to adhere to certain standards in our investment strategies. And we use several investment pools. And if you're familiar with a mutual fund, an investment pool is very similar. This is an additional investment pool that we want to authorize for our investments. We like some of the features that they have. For instance, they have 2 managers overseeing the investment pool, and so you have a balance in the diversification of where they invest that money. So it's not just one bank, it's not just one savings.
No.
It's a variety of those.
I was just interested as to why. I mean, we've never used them before, have we?
We have not, but they are used throughout our region, and the Lower Valley Water District also uses them. So they're They're established.
So we
just haven't used them.
we just increase how we diversify our.
Yes, sir. We're just
our-
adding one more investment vehicle to our portfolio.
Okay, so that's not going to really impact any of the other investments that we've already made before.
No, sir. Those routinely mature, and then we reinvest them. So these are all cash investments.
Yes.
They may be CDs, 90-day, 180-day, whatever they are. So they're routinely maturing. And then we look at the various investment pools and we say, who's got the best rate? Where are we going to get the best return on our investment? And we also measure the safety of it. How good is it?
So you conducted an analysis
Yes, sir.
within your department for, when was this analysis done?
We haven't done it yet. You have to authorize it for us to be able to invest in it. But every month, every quarter, we report on the investments and where the money is and what the return on the investment has been.
Okay.
So you don't see any risk? I mean, I hear whenever you make an investment, there's always a risk associated. Is there any
There's
risk?
always risk, but under the Public Funds Investment Act, we're restricted about what we can invest in. And you'll notice in the resolution, it actually articulates the various investments that we can utilize within our portfolio. And
What
so
kind-
of investments, these are the safest.
What kind of revenue can we expect from these investments?
So what's the last rate you saw for them? I can tell you that if you look in the financial statements, so Lone Star was 5.46
On the 7 days.
on a 7-day yield,
Was what?
5.46%.
Okay.
5.48 versus 5.46, so,
What kind of cash are we investing?
I'm sorry.
What kind of cash are we investing?
Let me go to the financials real quick, and I'll tell you. If you think about it, our payroll is $30 million a month.
Mhm.
So we routinely will put 30 to 60 million in investments, and then based on when we need the cash, we put that maturity to match so that it matures and we have it for the next thing. But we never want 60, 90, 100 million sitting in checking accounts that earn nothing. All of our bond funds remain in investments until we know the project is going to pay out and it's time to write the check to finish the project.
So it's about 5% on 30 million?
At least, yes.
Okay.
And do you see a growth over a period of time due to our investments?
Just one second. I'm going to go to the financials and read you the summary. Do you have it in front? Well, I wanted to read. Last year, what were our earnings last year at this same period? There we go. That's what I'm after. Okay, so last year we had $374.2 million invested, and we earned $4.5 million. This year, we have $245.3 million invested, because obviously we're finishing up our bond program, so I don't have that much capital money sitting out there in investments. But because of increased rates, we've earned $8.9 million.
Wow.
Okay, now keep in mind, that is not revenue for the operating
No,
fund.
no.
That is money that goes to capital projects.
Right, right.
Okay.
No, I mean,
But yes, you can see as rates have risen, we're still staying in very stable, authorized investments, but we are earning more because as rates go up, we look and see, where do we want to invest?
okay, action item number 3, authorized use of investment brokers. Again, what does this mean? In layman language.
Go ahead.
So on an annual basis, the board has to review, revise, and adopt a list of approved brokers. So that's why you're seeing that item presented to you, because according to legal policy, CDA legal, that is a requirement on an annual basis of the board.
Are we adding anybody to this?
So we are adding Lone Star Investment Pool. So
Oh, okay, the ones that are previous.
right, so
So we have to go through this process of authorizing the use of them as far as the board is concerned.
correct.
Okay. But you say this will provide a better advantage for the district to invest their money as we go on through the year, instead of just being to a couple of them. Now we can look at their return and say, you know what, these are all for a short period, right?
Yes, generally speaking, they are short-term investments. We don't go much beyond a year.
Yeah, because
But
they're.
keep in mind, they're all competing against each other. So you will see this one right now is paying a little more, but eventually, another one of the pools will pay a little more because they want to draw our money. That's how they make money.
Oh, yeah.
So now we are pitting more of them against each other for the same type of investment in order to increase our
So
yields.
in sense, we're encouraging the competition.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. This is another one. Number 4, approval of award of YISD contract with Haskins ESUP. Now, what is this?
So for the past 5 years, we've had Whitley Penn as our
Mhm.
independent financial auditor. So this is for our financial statement audit. They come in and they do the audit annually, and then they publish our AFR that's required to be submitted to the state. We still have to bid this out, so we have to go solicit for a new auditor. We awarded Whitley Penn a 3-year contract with 2 one-year extensions, I believe. So now it's time to bid it out. We did go out for bids, or we requested qualifications, and we had 2 audit firms submit proposals. Whitley Penn declined to bid. They are based out of Houston, and I don't think they have enough business here to warrant the travel back and forth to El Paso. We had 2. One was a local auditor that submitted a bid, and then this Hankins ESTUP. The difference in price was significant. Hankins ESTUP is out of Denton, so we were a little bit concerned because obviously they're not here, and we could have chosen a local auditor. However, the price difference was $101,000 versus $76,000. When we checked references, Denton ISD is one of this auditor's clients, and they are responsible, or they just passed a $1.4 billion bond in the fall, and this firm audits them. They also represent or audit Potter County Potter County in the Panhandle of Texas. So we checked Allen ISD, Denton ISD, Potter County, Texas. We spoke with every one of their references, and they came highly recommended. So we opted for the best value and a qualified auditor.
I know that our previous board member questioned a lot of times why we were using out-of-town auditors. And may I ask, what are the other, who is doing this for our sister districts?
Probably the competitor that bid on this, Gibson, Ruddock, Patterson. Sorry, I have to think because they changed their partners' names, but Gibson, Ruddock.
But they came in at a higher rate?
$101,000 compared to
Wow.
$76,000.
How much were we paying Penn Whitney or whatever?
We were paying Whitley Penn about $100,000.
Okay.
Mr. Ochoa.
Where are
can I-
you? Oh,
I'm
who's
sorry.
talking? Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, so when I was looking at this, this action item, I remember when we chose Whitley Penn. I was on the board when we did that, as was Mr. Haggerty. And we went through a totally different process for choosing this new. And, you know, I'm of the opinion that it's not a bad thing to change your external auditor ever so often. To me, it just gives you a fresh outlook on the district and new eyes. But when we did it the last time, we actually had more of a review panel with the board. The board was the one who looked at the qualifications of, we had like 3 or 4 different competitors, and we did the rating of it, and we chose Whitley Penn because of their reputation. And I mean, it was like we ranked them in different areas, and they came out with the highest ranking. And of course, how much we were going to have to pay them. All of those things were, ranked just like you would do in a regular type thing. And since it's an auditor position, it feels like that particular function should sit with the board more, because we're kind of responsible for making sure that we are, listening to the audits and following the data that's based with that. So I was kind of surprised when it just comes up, okay, boom, this is the one we've got. I'm glad to hear that you guys got all the feedback from them and you checked all of that stuff out, I just feel a little like, it's like, well, here they are, you know. And I would have liked to had some more information about the two competitors and just to see exactly why this group was chosen. I'm glad that they had, it sounds like you got good references and stuff like that. It just feels a little like it was just kind of removed from the board and just put into a regular contract of, that the district would approve through the district personnel. So I'm just a little concerned about that aspect of it. I don't know, I don't really think I've asked a question, but I don't.
But I hear concern. And
Yes.
so perhaps what we can do is table the item, if you would prefer, and we could even ask for presentations by the two auditors. I don't want you to think that we only focused on price. This was a request for proposals. Price is a factor. It is
Absolutely.
ranked the highest, but we also evaluated reputation and quality, meets the needs, the past relationship, which there wasn't with either of these, I don't believe, and then anything else that might have been relevant in their particular presentations. Another thing that's probably important for you, and I need to go back and look because I was here when Whitley Penn was awarded. This is the standard procedure for doing it. We just may have evaluated or brought them before you for presentations.
The way, it was very soon after, in about 2015 is
Okay.
when that we first chose this company to represent us. I mean, to do our audits.
So I'm happy to pull it and then come back and ask them maybe for presentations. The thing that I did want to mention is that we also asked the CFO, Deputy City Manager from the city to sit on this evaluation committee. So we wanted an independent person beyond our own internal folks who had expertise and has dealt with the various auditors. And it was a unanimous decision to go with this particular one. But if it makes the board more comfortable, we serve at your pleasure. And so
I
I'm
think
happy.
that would be the way to go, is to table it and having a presentation for the next time. And actually, because this is going to be with us for a long, long time, and like Whitney Penn was what, 10 years ago or 12 years ago?
Well, not quite 10.
And
The way
and I just want to
remember it,
make
about
sure
9.
that we are transparent as far as the community and everything else. It's just that I'm sure that your selections were correct and everything else, but as far as the board, and especially me, because I've never gone through that, and our new members would certainly like to hear a little bit more on that. And I think because they're going to be our auditors for a long, long time, I think it's something that she's right, that we as a board should play a big part of that.
I don't disagree. I just want to check something with legal. The internal auditor
It's ours.
is yours.
Right.
This auditor is actually going to audit you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live in an area like Dallas-Fort Worth where you have potential relationships with firms and external auditors who at some point are going to come and collect paperwork from you indicating that you've not received any gifts or any money,
Right.
or taken any trips, that type of thing, I think the difference and the reason you may want to rethink picking the external auditor is because normally that's an administrative function.
Well, I don't think we're going to pick, we just want to have more information on how the selection was conducted.
Oh, you know how the selection was conducted. But you want to be involved.
No, I don't think we want to be involved.
I think so.
Because it's so funny, because that's the first time that we did this, we literally had, this is going to sound weird, it was a lot like picking the superintendent.
You guys all got together.
We all got together, that was the external. We moved from, I imagine it's the same group that
If I may, you're absolutely correct. The evaluation committee was the Board of Trustees. You approved the RFP March 1st, 2015 was the date that the contract was effective. But the evaluation committee and the agenda from that period shows that Whitley Penn was qualified for award and that the evaluation committee was the Board of Trustees and the Office of the Superintendent, the internal auditor, as the administrator. It's very different.
Right. It's just
It's very
different. It's
but-
different than what we did before. I have to say, I was pretty new to the board even at that point, and some of it felt a little over my head. But
But it's a good thing we keep notes.
But I don't know. I mean, I will defer to whatever, because this is a brand-new board. It's not the one that was in 2015. I defer to whatever the board feels is the best way to go with this. I just wanted to voice that because it did hit me that it was just so different than when we first chose this
Well,
particular
my
company.
apologies. I
Well,
obviously wasn't
no.
here in 2015, nor was David, our purchasing director.
No,
that
and
did
I'm
this-
not, I'm
this-
not,
No.
I'm not criticizing anything that you did. It just feels a lot different.
I
So I
propose-
defer to what my colleagues would like to do with it, and I'll let you guys
I
speak.
propose that we look at this at a later date, but also get with legal to make sure you look at what transpired back in 2015 and see what actually happened and how that was. Then we can bring it up to the board if that's agreeable. Yeah.
Yeah, we might table it, but before we do, a couple of things. First, I was curious, I wanted to ask, what is the weight, when doing an evaluation of contract bids, of a vendor being local? What's the weight of that as opposed to being out of town? And what's the weight of the dollar amount that is bid?
Sorry.
No, of course.
So
If I-
I think what I heard was, is there points, or are there points awarded for local preference or local vendors?
Vendor.
No.
Is that something, is that a policy that the board can adopt?
Yes.
State law restricts it. I remember this being very touchy at the city.
And that's,
We tried to-
State law restricts,
I'm sorry, Mr. Safi.
Mr. Safi, state law restricts
That's correct.
this board from creating a policy that puts added weight for a local entity?
That's correct, unless, I mean, what can be considered is, for instance, if it's important that the vendor be local, simply in order to be able to provide the services needed by the district on a timely basis. For instance, you wouldn't want to hire a plumber whose only office is in Dallas. You need somebody local. You can call them up and here they come. You see what I'm saying? So from that perspective, you can consider response time, okay, as a surrogate for local. You can consider that. You can consider on professional services. If you need to have a face-to-face meeting with that professional service provider on short notice, okay, I need for you to get in your car and come here. I want to see you in 30 minutes. Well, that's certainly a factor that can be considered as opposed to someone who's located out of town. So those types of factors are legitimate, but to purely give a local preference simply because they're local, irrespective of any advantages or benefits that might be in that, is generally not allowed under state law.
Generally?
I'm looking for the specific section now.
Yeah, because that wasn't my understanding. And I guess that would be only for school districts, where that law would apply?
The specific section, I believe, is applies to school districts, but I think it has application. There are other codes that would apply to other governmental entities.
with, as I said before, I think we need to look at the legal aspects of this as well before we can make it, any assumptions or decisions right now, because from what I hear is that I certainly appreciate your legal point of view, but I would like to have it a little bit more researched before we conduct any business as far as this. Because, like I said, we're all, actually for this is a brand new thing for me. So, except for Connie and Mr. Haggerty.
And that's
but-
what I was going to say too, was one of the things I did like about taking part in that process, thank you, was getting a chance to see the process and being able to understand, because like even last meeting, I think we had questions on the bid process and how
Yeah.
did this vendor get selected over this vendor, and it gives you hands-on knowledge of how the bid process works. Is it something that we like? Is it something that should be changed? But it was either 2015 or it was one when we picked our council. We were able to give preferential treatment to local, and maybe because it was the council, maybe that's what it was. Because there's times where obviously we need you here.
Yeah, I mean, if the state law prevents us from doing so, well, then I get it. There's nothing we can do about it. But like President Ochoa said, we absolutely need to be sure, because I'm of the opinion that absolutely a local entity should get points for this. We should consider local before out of town. That is my opinion, so I really want to be sure that in fact the state is preventing us from doing so. The other thing, to Trustee Woodruff's concerns, so since I've gotten here, I've been under the impression that at some point the board made it some kind of policy, or maybe it just became culture, that the board isn't going to micromanage every little contract that needs to be approval, that at some point there's some policy made where the superintendent and his cabinet can make these decisions without having to go through the board. And so, being the new guy and being under that impression, I felt that just kind of went with this. So you guys do the work and we just say yes or no. I think for some items that makes a lot of sense, but maybe for something like this, it should be with the board. Or am I under the wrong impression that this board did not make some kind of policy that gives a lot of leeway to the superintendent to make these decisions without board review?
So we adhere to procurement law no matter what. Government code establishes what procurement law is. I will tell you that in order to facilitate the movement of projects, that there is a regulation and a policy that indicates if a contract is routine and you bid it out every 3 years, if it's budgeted, if it's routine, if it's competitively awarded, then yes, under a certain threshold, the superintendent or designee has the authority, after going through the procurement process, to award. But it has to be competitively awarded, it has to be budgeted, and it has to follow all of those criteria. This particular one, as I'm going back through the notes, I'm pulling up agendas and minutes and things, and what I'm finding is that it looks like Gibson Reddick was the auditor for the district for 15 straight years. I will tell you, as a CPA, that's a bad practice. You do need to have different auditors come in and look. So and this may ring a bell with you, that was why they didn't allow administration to sit on that particular committee. It was the board. Now, if you want to sit on an evaluation and go through this process, I'm happy to have them go back and rebid it and allow you to be the evaluation committee. You're absolutely correct. You'll get to see all of that. I will also warn you, though, that there have been problems when board members sit on evaluation committees for procurement. If you have a relationship with a vendor, if the vendor has entertained you, if the vendor is seeking your business and has an exchange of funding, it can be very risky. This has been a protective measure for the board, not a means of keeping you out of it, but a means of protecting you and bringing to you administration's recommendation after a fully vetted process that adheres to procurement law.
But this isn't a routine review. This has been over, what, 13, 12 years since the last time it was.
Whitley Penn was awarded in 2015, so it has been 9 years. But keep in mind that has come back to you. That was just the earliest. It has been awarded by you, recommended to the board, and awarded at least 3 times, because you would have to get that many years in there.
Okay. Well, I just want clarification for how we should proceed with it, because I can see Mr. Hernandez's concern, as Mrs. Woodrow's, and everybody. I just think that we should just bring it out, clarify what we can do and what we should do as far as a board for this kind of it is a big element of our district, having an outside auditor come in.
So I will need to expedite the process, because our auditor would begin field testing in the next 30 to 45 days, meaning they would be looking at the records, pulling the records, going through the samples of them. So it would have to be done by April.
Okay.
I think Ms. Leeper also brings up a very good point to always keep in mind as board members, whether new or long-term, and that is, if any item is coming up that it looks like we're going to be voting on, you can't be going to dinner with any of those vendors. You can't be. Don't take phone calls. Don't engage in any type of conversation with any vendors that looks like will be coming up for vote at any time.
I think everybody here has.
So that way you don't have. I'm not saying anybody would. I'm just saying be on the lookout.
I don't think. I don't know any of these people. So, but even if I was approached by them, I would say, sorry.
There's even been times where vendors have called, and they didn't know the rules. They're just, I'm calling to see what it is that might make me a better competitor or something.
And
you inform them of the rules. Usually they're okay. I'm sorry.
In my tenure here as the board, I can honestly say I've never been entertained by any vendor as far as trying to sway me to whatever's coming up before the board.
Not that they're trying to sway you, just that they'll, like at TASB or things like that, when everybody goes out to a function after the meetings.
Yeah.
It's hosted by Whitley Penn, or it's hosted by Gibson Ruddock, or it's hosted by whoever the latest one is. That can be seen as.
Most of the time, it's vendors that are already contracted with the district. It's not somebody that's up for evaluating a contract.
In question or in doubt or anything, if you take him with you, you'll be fine.
Take who? Dr. Latorre? I don't know what he said, but anyway, we're getting off track. We're getting off track. Here, yes.
President Cho, I'd like to just briefly revisit the issue of local preference. I said I was looking for the education code section that covers that. Under section 44.031, the board can consider whether or not a vendor has its principal place of business in the state of Texas. Locally, that comes in considering Texas versus New Mexico. That can be considered so that they have a principal place of business somewhere in the state. In reaction to the Attorney General opinions in cases, it said that you could not give a purely local preference just because someone is local. The legislature a few years ago adopted a compromise measure, which is section 44.031B1, which provides in awarding a contract by competitive sealed bid under this section, a school district that has its central administrative office located in a municipality with a population of less than 250,000 may consider a bidder's principal place of business as a factor. And so what the compromise in the legislature was that school districts located in municipalities with less than 250,000 population, in other words, the smaller areas, the smaller municipal areas.
That would be like Clint or.
Well, yes, if it's
but
not the county, it's in the
we're
municipality.
Yeah.
okay? So it's, usually they look at county population. Here, it's municipality population. So for instance, Anthony, which is located within the town of Anthony, they could take advantage of this.
Right.
But
But again, I know that you just looked at it, I appreciate it, but I think I would like a more thorough look at this legally and have a lot of the things that we've asked today, be prepared to present it to the board. That way, I don't feel like we're being rushed or we're being thrown this stuff. I feel that we should take our time, and even though, as Ms. Leeper said, it's something that, but I'd rather wait until the next month to have this presented to the board, and then we can make a proper decision as to what we want to do as far as selecting who's going to select the auditor. Me personally, I don't think I want to be involved in it, but the board members certainly can have differences on that. But I just want the facts. I want what we can't do, and what are the implications of everything before we decide on this particular matter. So,
I'm sorry, I want to clarify what Mr. Safi just said. So you're saying any vendor in the state of Texas could get that weight of being local?
No. In other words, when the board is considering an in-state vendor versus an out-of-state vendor, it can give preference to an in-state vendor, in-state.
So if we have a vendor from Dallas and a vendor from Las Cruces.
We can't use Las Cruces.
You can give preference to the Dallas vendor. You don't have to, but you can.
I understand the law is the law, but I'll just say now that makes zero sense to me. I think it'd make a lot more sense to do it as a radius. 200-mile radius is considered local, whether it's in state or out. Because these folks in Austin, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, it all makes sense to them. I've been part of statewide organizations. They don't think about El Paso at all. And it's not fair, and it's wrong. Not that there's anything you can do about it, but I'll take my privilege of being on this dais to say so publicly. It's wrong, and that law needs to change, and I'll advocate.
El Paso and Texarkana do not tend to get special consideration.
Interesting. Thank you, Mr. Safi.
Did you have something to say?
Yes, Board President Ochoa and board members. I want to also direct your attention to your own board policy. So you have policy CH local that specifically authorizes and delegates to your superintendent certain powers, purchasing powers. So you have under that policy, again, CH local, a delegation laid out for contracts for the provision of professional services. This is considered under the Education Code of Professional Services, professional service. So you've delegated the authority to your superintendent, the authority to approve contracts for the provision of professional services, except for those over $100,000, if acquired without an open solicitation or through sole source. And so you are not dealing with services that are going to exceed that threshold. So you, in other words, have the facts here necessary to follow your own policy and continue to delegate that power. Now, if what you want to do is consider it coming to the board, then I would also suggest we bring CH local back for reconsideration, because essentially you're violating your own board policy if you step outside of what you've already delegated to your superintendent. So some food for thought for the next board meeting when it comes back to you.
Again, right now we're tired, we're exhausted. All this stuff you bring up, I'm sure it's legitimate and everything else, but I'd rather step back, let the board step back, and you come up with all these things you're talking about and present it to the board at the next board meeting. And certainly, I think we'll be at a better state of mind to make a better decision on what this agenda item has been presented.
Mrs. Leeper, like you said, it is getting a little bit late, and some of these younger people are getting tired. Did I hear you right? There is a time constraint here. You mentioned that we had to get this done before April.
I would need to expedite the award because they start field testing. So they make, let's use Whitley Penn, for example. They would be here in probably at the end of this month, early April. They would be drawing their samples and identifying the records they're going to inspect. They would be identifying the entire plan, reviewing it with us, conducting their interviews, starting in April. And so, yes, I can extend the existing contract with Whitley Penn by another month, 60 days, but it doesn't really do me any good because they're not going to be the financial auditor looking at our financial statements at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So
Right.
it does, I do need to move it quickly. And Mr. Hernandez, I just want to point out one thing because you raised a great point, and Ms. Damata also referenced it. At Ms. Lucero's request, probably 2 years ago, we began reporting every single contract that's awarded administratively that doesn't come to the board, and we do it by BC. So that you know, hey, there was one awarded, it's under the threshold, but you can see every single contract that's being awarded administratively under the superintendent's delegation of authority. So you're aware, but it's by BC and not in a public meeting.
So we're going to table this, is that correct?
I just want to ask, so when is the absolute latest time that we can consider this? And
I would really prefer, if we're going to table it, that we get it addressed on the April board meeting.
but that would be okay if we did it, if we tabled it till,
He's sighing over here.
I'm so sorry. I know.
It will put a burden on the auditor, but I would think that they would be willing to do it. Now, if we're going to redo the entire solicitation, that's a 30-day advertisement.
I don't really think that's what we're asking for.
I don't think we're asking
I think that just because of the experiences that we've had before, it'd just be nice to kind of have a little more information about this person, you know, sitting in.
The process.
Yeah, and the process, and just sitting in front of us so that we can see what exactly happened and know a little bit more about this
We
company.
will make sure you have that before the April meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Safi, how do we table this?
Actually, it would be a motion to postpone. A motion to table would be
When we
to,
come to it for voting? When we come to it for the voting?
that is correct. It'd be a
Okay.
motion to postpone, and then the request has been to postpone it to the April meeting, so that should be, that ideally would be included in the motion.
Okay. All right, so that was the last item on the agenda. Going back. The order of the agenda has been approved. May I have an electronic motion on the consent agenda items listed on the agenda as recommended by the administration?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda items listed on this agenda as recommended by administration.
There's something wrong with the screen.
I did the same thing.
Thank you. It's already late. Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Woodruff, a second by Mr. Shane Haggerty. Please cast your votes. Okay. The results are in. 6 in favor, none opposed. Okay, going back to the action items. Donation to the Ysleta Community Adult Learning Center. Is there any discussion? Do you want to say anything, sir?
Just want to say thank you.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, may I have an electronic motion? Mr. Bustillos.
I move to accept the donation valued at $25,000 from Dollar General and benefit the Ysleta Community Adult Learning Center.
We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes.
You're good.
The results are in, 6 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 2, approve Lone Star Investment Pool Resolution, or is there any discussion? If no discussion, may I have a motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. President, I move to approve a resolution to approve and authorize execution of an investment agreement for participation in the Lone Star Investment Pool, designating the pool as an agency and instrumentality, approving investment policies of the pool, appointing authorized representatives, and designating investment officers.
Thank you. We have a second by Mr. Bustillos. Please cast your electronic votes. Votes have been cast. Results are 6 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 3, authorize use of investment brokers. Is there any discussion? No discussion. May I have a motion? Mr. Bustillos.
Mr. President, I move to authorize the use of Wells Fargo Bank, JP Morgan, Chase Bank, Top Hill Securities, Base Check, Vance Bank, Lone Star Investment Pool, Texas Class, Texas Pool Prime, Texas Range, DABA, FPM Asset Management, Multi-Bank Securities Incorporated, and TCG Investment Advisory Services in the investment broker with the district.
Thank you. We have a second by Mr. Hernandez. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. The results are 6 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 4, approval of award YSD contract number 202-40128 with Haskins ESUP.
Mr. President, I move that we postpone award of YISD contract number 202-40128 to the April meeting.
We have a motion by Ms. Woodruff. We have a second. I second it. On this one, we'll have to vote not electronically, right?
No?
You can vote electronically.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because the motion
Well,
changed.
it's the motion to table this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we don't do the wrong thing here. Okay, so we have a second by Mr. Bustillos. We have a motion to table or postpone this till the next meeting. Please cast your electronic votes. Okay, this motion by Ms. Woodruff has been approved by 4 in favor, 2 opposed. All right, I think that pretty much does it. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn.